As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.
I guess I grew up on an older road.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Hunting Collective. I'm Ben O'Brien. I'm talking to you from the past. Well in the past. This is best of part 2. I'm talking to you before the Christmas break. You're listening to this in the new year, 2021. Hopefully nothing is frozen over. Hell, especially is not frozen over. And we're still moving forward in time. Phil and I are still hungover. Conceptually hungover from New Year's Eve. And so this is going to be a slower show, and that's why it's best of. Phil, are you feeling okay over there, bud?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Well, like you said, we're recording this in the past, but I'm just going to imagine myself as future Phil right now. I'm sure I just took several Tums after drinking way too much eggnog the night before.
That's right.
The night before, leftover eggnog from Christmas. Because I'm the only one in the family who drinks the eggnog, but I make a large batch anyway. And I'm happy with that decision.
Good. I'm glad. I'll still have that champagne headache about 3 days later. That's probably where I'll be at. And kids will still be screaming and running around, and I'll still be laying on the floor face down, putting my face in the cool rug, hoping no one jumps on my back and starts to try to wrestle me. Especially little people. So anyway, that's where we are right now in the future. But where we're going to be in the present, which is also in the future. Does that make sense, Phil?
Yep, perfect.
In the future, but in the present, also in the future. Is we're going to explore some of...
Sorry, I was going to say it's a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, this is an Inception. You're about to get incepted, cult. You're going back in time to go forwards in time in the future. So... what we're going to do in this beautiful episode is we're going to go through some of our favorite moments in the field, and we're going to listen to some moments we love, and we're going to talk about them and examine them. And we're going to get you through a nice, easygoing post-holiday podcast. 2021 is going to be a year of change for us, isn't it? You're going to be a hunter. Not so sharp moments are probably going to be gone. We've heard enough of those. I think we might even pick some new music. New segments. We got Clay Newcomb coming on for a segment. We got Ask the Eagle with Giannis Patelis. We're going to be sprucing up your THC this beautiful new year in an effort to keep you excited and keep you in the cult. We're going to give you some fresh Kool-Aid, ice down, refreshing. Phil, anything you're looking forward to this year, bud?
A vaccine in both.
Going hunting is the answer.
Yeah, going hunting with
that
you
was the
specifically.
Answer. Yes. We want to announce in this episode that Phil's going to go hunting this year, 2021. And we're going to go turkey hunting. Okay, Phil? You ready for that?
Yes, I am.
It's like the 6th time on air we've made a plan. But this time, we're sticking to it.
I mean, if it doesn't happen now, no one's going to believe a thing you say.
I don't know why they do at this point anyway. But what we're going to do is we're going to reintroduce you to some of the characters we love so much from last year. We're going to take you in the field for some moments that I enjoyed and hope you enjoyed listening to. And we did last year, Phil's a sound engineer. He's the master of the audio arts. And I gave him, a lot of watercolors to paint with. He's Bob Ross in that shit last year. And so first thing we're going to do is run you through some of the moments in the field where we captured some of the audio of me hunting in the field or going out in the field with someone. And we got a good lineup. We got rabbit hunting with Charles Rodney in Maryland from last February. We got gator hunting with the Landry crew from last September. And then from August, we have Yellowstone, tracking around Yellowstone, hunting for predators. Dr. Dan Staler over there east of Bozeman, not too far. So we went out in the field for these 3 big episodes of the show, and it was a chance for Phil, a man of the audio master of the universe, to flex his muscle. Phil, did you feel like you did a good job on these episodes? You feeling really good about the audio mastery that you've turned in here?
I don't know why you're turning this into the Phil show when it was you who traveled to all these places and did the work. But I appreciate it. I did my job, and you did all the stuff that matters.
Yeah, but I got some good vittles out of it. I got some good adventures, some good memories, and all you had to do was your job. So next year we're going to get you out in the field with us to experience some of this cool stuff. So first up, we're going to return to Chestertown, Maryland, with my buddy Charles the Rabbit Man Rodney. One of the most pleasing hunts to the ears you're ever going to go on. Barking dogs, Charles Rodney yelling at his dogs, me yelling at Charles Rodney, him saying, "Dead rabbit!" and all the other beautiful things that come out of that man's mouth. You're going to hear them because we're going to join our hunt on the eastern shore of Maryland with Charles the Rabbit Man Rodney. Relive some rabbit hunting.
Ready? Let it go. That's buckshot. Rattler. Bozo. Catch that blue thing. Let him go. This is Blue. This is Hank, the best dog. And this is Sam.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hunting Collective. I'm Ben O'Brien, and I am out hunting in the field right now with Charles Rodney. I'm walking through an open field on the eastern shore of Maryland behind some 6 beagles looking for rabbits. You hear Charles in the background imploring his dogs to find them. We might have one right here. That's a pretty looking thicket right there. How many? We got 3 rabbits, Charles?
3.
We've been hunting for about an hour and a half. We got 3. So that ain't bad. But you're going to hear the sounds, the sights and sounds of rabbit hunting from the field. So stay tuned. We're going after them. We got one up. We got one up. You got him. I got it. Dead rabbit. Dead rabbit. Yep. Good shooting. Right here. Dead rabbit. Come on, boys. Come on and get him. Come on, boys.
I saw a leaf move. And I looked, and I saw it move again. But it went back in and wasn't a dog, so I did that. And then all of a sudden, the 3rd time, he come on out of there.
And you shot him right here, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Those dogs were intense. They were intense that he went in there.
Give me a dead rabbit.
Dead
Dead rabbit.
You want a picture of him?
Yep.
Jeffrey, bring him up here so we can get a picture. Yeah.
He was sitting right on the edge.
2 feet from
So I was just interviewing Charles a little bit, filming him on my phone,
You were talking.
and a rabbit jumped pretty much right from out from under Charles's feet, didn't he?
About 2 feet away while we were talking. You just never know.
You never know
where
they're
they
gonna
were
be.
sitting. Here, I was just telling Ben what kind of cover we need, and this one's sitting in the open. Once you start making some noise with the shots and the dogs running, these rabbits get spooked up. So they could be sitting anywhere. This must be the motel for rabbits.
Well, yeah, we could have somebody just stand here and block. Charles, what kind of bark are you listening for these dogs? A certain type of bark, certain type of expression?
I'm kind of looking for a continuous bark, kind of a little bit more exciting. When the scent get real hot, they get more excited. All of them are not barking now. So that means that that rabbit could have gotten up earlier. It could have been an older scent that they can still smell. So I'm looking for an intense, close barking when he get up and they get hot on him. They get real excited.
Cold trail now, huh?
A little bit cold, yeah. It's they don't cold trail, but that rabbit got up earlier. I'm gonna call him back this way so we can go over on that side of the creek.
Brushy.
Yeah, yeah. Come on here. Yeah. Come on here. Yeah. Come on, Hank. Come on, Blue. Rattler. That's Sam there. Come on, Bozo. Buckshot. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on here. Come on here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're out here hunting. Phil, this is your grandfather's place? Or your family's place. But as you were a kid, this is where your grandfather lived, and you spent a lot of time kicking rabbits out of the brush out here, didn't you?
We did. Not like this, but we did. We killed a few rabbits.
We were saying earlier.
When y'all get over there, every now and then, tap some of them little bushes. They might be sippy
10-4.
on the edge like that other one.
We were talking last night over some Bud Lights that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's rabbit hunting and there's rabbit hunting with Charles Rodney.
Find it.
Wholly different experience.
Totally different experience.
Find it. Yeah,
When you're running with him, and how many dogs do we have? Charles, how many do we have out here?
How many dogs?
6 dogs.
6 dogs.
6 dogs?
All
Yeah, this is a
male.
completely different program. He's right in here. You got the top bend?
Yeah.
Come on, boys.
Oh, they're here.
See him? I took 2 shots at him. I was behind him, though. He's in here.
Watch the road.
Got him. Dead rabbit. He must have been wounded.
Where was he?
Here, boys. Here, boys.
Here, boys, come here.
Here. Here, boys.
You missed it. You missed your turn.
Yeah. Lou. Slim.
Right.
Come here, boys. Here, boys. Come here, boys. Stop.
He just stopped. He jumped right out from under my feet and ran right through some brush.
Here you go, bud. Come here. Look.
Let it be known that my shot was only for a warning.
Dead rabbit.
Good dogs. Good boys. Good
Good
boys. Good shooting. Rabbit number 4 on the ground. Yeah, that guy, he jumped right from under my feet.
How you like that run, Ben?
Come on, I chased him.
What did you come out on your field or he was still in the bushes?
He came pretty fast. He ran here, stopped, then took off again. He jumped right under here, and I smoked him.
My shot was only for appearances, Charles.
Contact.
I basically shot
Nothing wrong with that.
I shot a bush.
You never know.
It was a good-looking bush.
It was one of the better looking bush I've ever shot.
Yeah,
Boone and Crockett bush.
yeah.
All right, Charles,
Find 'em.
give us a hunt update. How we doing? How do you feel like we're doing?
I think we're doing pretty good. We got 3 right quick. It slowed down a little bit, and we had our best run of the day. A long circular eggshell route, and he was about 30 yards from where he got up. And all the time, rabbits make that circle, and they go back to where they get up.
Yep.
This one was heading back that way, but Brother Phil Hoon made 1 shot and ended that.
They call him one shot hoon
Yeah, 1
for a
shot.
good
Hoon.
reason. He never shoots twice. Now we're getting it.
Eagles. Charles, why is there something like a deep sound that the dogs respond to? Like,
Or is it loud and assertive? What's it? Is there a type of tone they like better than another?
No, they know which dog is the true bark. They know each other's bark. 2 of them dogs, Rattler and Bozo, when they get on the scent, they got that whoo, whoo. They got that deep voice. But they know when each voice is true and that rabbit is rolling. And because as you know, a couple of times when one dog might give 1 or 2 little barks, they don't go to it. But when they give a certain bark, they know the scent is hot and it's up, and it's time to join in.
Well, what about you? When you're commanding them, do you use a deep voice?
No, I just use whatever voice I feel is necessary. Now, when I'm just telling them to get in, I just tell them, find them, get in there. But if I see the rabbit like that and calling them where Jeffrey just called him, yeah, I need to call them quick. Yeah, like that, fast, like that, fast. And sometimes I run a little bit. They see me running, they run. And when I get close to where the scent is, I point down, and they put their nose down and they pick it up. See, Blue picked it up first.
Yeah, when I went down the hill, Blue was on the rabbit.
Yeah.
Well, here's Charles Rodney, he's hunted this farm many times, right?
Yeah.
So he couldn't count them. He's hunted this farm many times. And if you're active, right, and you're seeing the landscape every couple of times a year at the same time of year, right, the same seasonality, he could probably call out every little corner of this and what's changed.
Find him.
Things like this used to be a lot thicker. But, you know, some other areas have gotten thick where
Blue.
this has lost it.
It's got enough. But yeah, I mean, who else would notice that little intricate detail? Like, that used to be a lot thicker. Now, Charles, Rodney, you tell everybody out there about that shot I just made. Like, what kind of sporting man am I?
Well, folks, I'm going to give it to the man from Montana. He was standing there. The dogs was pushing. They pushed him in the briars in the bottom. Jeffrey and I was standing. He turned. He went back in some weeds, some brown weeds, which makes it hard to see.
That's right.
And I could see Ben, and he moved over about maybe 10 feet. He said, I'm going to cover this area, and the dogs was pushing him straight. And he peeled off one shot, head shot, cut the head right in half.
Good shot.
Good safe shot. So we ended that it was a long chase.
That was a long chase.
They jumped him on the other side of a what do we call a sloop, where the land kind of slopes with some water running in it, a deep ravine with water running. They ran him around, and he went in the weeds, and that's where we killed him. Dogs stayed on him. And about 3 deer got up in front of the dogs.
Yep.
These dogs do not chase deer. They will not.
They stayed right on that rabbit.
They stayed right on the rabbit.
They went back.
What they live for.
That rabbit must have crossed this road 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Come on in. Yeah. Find him. Come on. Keep going up. Here you go.
Couple of them. Rabbit number 6.
Yeah.
Rabbit number 6, Charles.
That's it.
Tell us the story. He got us. He
We
escaped.
kicked him up. He ran. We shot. We thought we had him. He got up, ran in some high brown grass, and made a turn to come back. And I was waiting on him, and the dog pushed him hard and fast and put him down, a nice sized big rabbit.
That's a good rabbit right
Yeah.
there. On we go.
Number 6.
Charles, we got to wrap up the morning hunt. What do you think?
I think this was an excellent hunt. We got eight rabbits. We had some real nice long runs through thick briars, up and down hill in a gully, and in a little bit of water and marsh. The dogs come back all muddy, but they still gave that extra. And it's warm, and they'll hunt some more. So I think 8 is excellent.
I do. I'm a little tired after that last run there.
Yeah, that last run worked us. We had to make some long shots, but he wouldn't quit. He ran with 2 back broke legs. He ran under some cut timbers on the ground, and the dog pulled him up. So
Well, that was good. Well, we're done in the field for this morning, so next time you're going to hear from us, probably we're going to be in the kitchen, maybe cooking, drinking, podcasting. So we'll see you right in a minute. Phil, maybe could that be your first hunt? Do you want to go on a rabbit hunt with Charles Rodney for your first ever adventure outside?
Not particularly. I don't think that would be a good first hunt. Do you?
I think it would. What turns you off about it?
I don't know. I mean, I guess there's no reason for it to turn me off. It just seems kind of out of left field for a first hunt. At least, I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base here.
I think you might be.
Okay.
Delicious table fare, wonderful company, a casual but athletic hunt. You still got to get up and down a little bit, but it's not like you only have one tag. The dogs are fun to watch do their job. You get to bust some brush. You get to wear a cool vest with a pouch in the back. All the things.
Ooh.
You get to wield a shotgun. All the things you'd ever want to do. So I do want to thank our friend Charles Rodney, man. He is one of the best. One of the things about this show that I have loved the most is highlighting guys like Charles. He really is one of my favorite people on the planet Earth. I've probably said that a bunch of times on this show. And so I thank Charles, his wife Judy, and their family for letting me come rabbit hunting. And up next, little gator hunting. Phil, this is definitely not the first hunt you're going to want to go on. This gator hunt with the Landry crew is gnarly. To them, it's normal. To Jacob Landry, Troy Landry, and their family, this is very normal. And it's kind of like a family affair. You know how you take your family out to do things? Maybe you go to the store, or maybe you go to church, maybe you go on a hike, maybe you go whatever kind of normal fanfare, family things that you do. If that's what the Landrys do, but they pull giant 12-foot gators out of the water on a hook with rotten chicken and then shoot those gators between the eyes and throw them in the boat. And I've been out multiple times where it's father, sons, and not these kids are like 3 and 6, maybe. Husband, wife, and 2 sons in a boat traveling around the bayou shooting gators between the eyes. And that's like a nice Sunday day as a family. So Phil, that's it's a little bit different than what your Sunday family traditions probably are.
You'd be surprised, Ben.
Oh shit, you got some secrets over there. Anyway, let's travel. This is the best of when me and Phil are just like packing it in, man. We're just trying to get this done for you. Doing our best. We're just doing our best. So now enjoy a little time with the Landry crew and the Gators.
Jacob, we're on what? Lake Verret, we said. Outside of Pier Park, Louisiana, with the swamp people themselves. Jacob, Ridge, Moose, Lindsay, Troy Landry, and we're after gators. I don't have much to say other than it's exciting, so you're going to have to stay tuned. But, Jacob, you're what, 12th season of the History Channel's Swamp People?
Going strong.
12, that's got to be the longest running show on that channel, or maybe any cable channel.
So, buddy.
Millions of people watching you guys hunt gators for over a decade, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to get some gators in the boat. Everything and then some here in the bayou.
We're not going to try. We're going to.
No trying.
We're going to get a wet ass.
All right, Jacob, tell us where we are right now.
Right now, we're fishing on Lake Verret. It's close to our hometown. It's a pretty big lake, a lot of big alligators. And you can't ask for a better scenery than this. It's nothing but big cypress trees full of Spanish moss all along the edges of it. And it's been known to produce some big alligators, but as you can hear, there's a lot of stumps, so you got to be careful as you're passing on the edge.
I don't know if we got one here. No.
I think the next one's up ahead.
Do you remember the first time you got your son Ridge here? He's 9. Ridge, say hi.
Hi.
You remember the first time you went out with your dad, Troy?
I probably don't remember exactly the first time. Oh, look at that nice one swimming straight away from our bait. Yeah, that's a good one. I really don't remember because I was probably too young to remember. My dad used to put me on his shoulders and take me in the woods and take me in the boat when I was a little bitty. But I do remember being little and going out there, that's for sure. Had a lot of good times. We used to rabbit hunt a lot. He used to always take me rabbit hunting and carry me on his shoulders and sit me on a stump.
All right, we're coming up on a bait that we hung yesterday. I do not see the line. Well, I see line straight in the water. Yeah, doesn't look like slack. There's plenty of gators around, but none on our hooks. Got one, Troy?
Oh, yeah.
got one. He's not a giant. Okay.
Get him.
That's what I'm talking about. Put him to sleep. Good night. Put one more in.
Good
I'll
night.
tell you what, I think you put a good one right there. Oh, yeah, I think you need to shoot him.
Gator number 2 of the day.
Huh?
Gator number 2?
Yes, sir. Gator number 2. We want a big one. We're looking for that pawpaw. We just seen about a 9-foot at the end of that canal swimming.
Yeah.
Well, we got back there, but
Yep.
it wasn't on the line.
Moose, you got any comments?
What?
You have any commentary?
No.
Okay. I'll come back to you later. What color is an alligator?
Black.
Oh, I don't know. Hey, girl.
What you got there, Benjamin?
Felt big when he's wrapped up in sticks.
He's a vegetarian. Moose, he eats salad.
Fighter.
Yeah. Like, give him a little slack. Give him a little slack. He's gonna hit the side of that boat. He goes straight.
Yep. Shoot, buddy. Come on. Like this, Troy? Feels like old times. I'm just waiting. I might jump in.
Get your fucking knife ready.
Right.
Man, yes, yes.
This is the hardest part where Troy makes fun of you if you can't get the gator in the boat. This is the big gator boat. We got all the big gators in this boat, Troy.
I think you got the biggest one.
It's no wonder your boat's faster because our boat has all the weight.
What?
Daddy, the alligator.
What, Bubba?
He's gonna fight us.
As if.
Yeah. Why don't you hold this? Lindsay's gonna hold the microphone while I try to get this.
What I got? It's on.
It's on. Just point it towards the foot.
All right, Benjamin. Where the hell you going, Ben?
All right.
Come on, Ridge, come fight him.
Ridge, you wanna go?
Come fight him, bro. Come home from Mr. Ben. Get up there on that deck.
Oh, Ridge. Hold him, buddy.
Don't let him go.
Hold him.
Don't let him go.
He's a big fellow.
Come on, Bubba.
You got him.
Come on, Bubba. Don't let it go. Right at me. Right at me. Good shot. That's a doozy.
Got him?
Yep.
Good job,
That's a
Ridge.
doozy.
I'm all wet. Take that, buddy. It's on safe.
500 footer.
500 footer? Oh, yeah. Yeah. What they don't tell you about gator hunting is the gators come in the boat with you when you're done with them. They don't, there's nowhere else to put them. What do you think, Rich? How big is this one?
About a 7-foot.
What do you think, Moose?
5.
Get that white handled knife back there.
500 footer? So now, Jacob, we're going to tag him.
We're going to put him a tag in them, make them legal beagle. Go ahead, Bubba, cut her at the end of the tail.
All right, what do we got? We got one. He's tangled up, isn't he? 6-footer. He's tangled up. Got to grab this rope. You going to help me, Ridge? Ridge, you're going to shoot him. Jacob's going to fight him. He's all wrapped up in a stick.
I mean, he get a number. That's what's bad about them little ones. Oh, there he is, right there, Bubba. Oh, let's see.
Safety.
Bust him, Gus him.
Got him?
Bust him, little Gus him. Watch it's on fire.
Put him on safe. Yeah.
Safe. Keep the barrel pointed up.
Well done, bud.
Straight up. Not at Mr. Ben. There you go.
Well done.
He's got just the right amount of meat.
All right, Red Item. We're going to put another hook and another bait.
Ridge, you don't like the bait? You don't like the rotten chicken?
No.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's not great. How many gators do you think, like if you had to count in Lake Verret, what do you think gator numbers would be?
Hundreds and hundreds. I really don't know. the thing is, like right now, you see the water just came up close to 2 foot. So now all them little slips that go back into the swamp, the gators go back in there. Mm-hmm. Now, right before the hurricane, the water was super low. So everything, all the swamps was all drained out dry. So everything was in the lake feeding. That people were seeing big alligators left and right. Now, if they still out here, I don't know. You know, they might be, but a lot of them will go back in that swamp and hide and get away from the boat traffic.
I imagine, unlike, you know, elk or deer, it's impossible to know how many gators are in a body of water. There's no way to know.
That little simple vibration of the boat, they'll go and hide. They do not like to stick around.
All right, Jacob, how many gators we got so far? We got to count them up.
It looks like we got about 6 decent ones in the boat, all around 6, 7, 8 foot, good average. But we're looking for that granddaddy. Gonna make it all worthwhile.
Yeah. You feel like we're doing better than your dad, or are we losing out?
We're doing pretty decent for the few lines we've ran so far. This line looks kind of tight going towards the bank, so.
These are lines we set yesterday, and all our lines have either had a gator or at some point.
Yeah, nothing's left hanging, so that's a good sign.
This looks good.
And sometimes it takes a couple days, you know, you catch a couple small ones and get them out of the way before you catch them big ones, so not too bad.
Let's check it out. What happened, Jacob? We're about halfway through the lines we set yesterday, and we got a little.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a really good area for alligators. It's a little nub right off the lake, and these big alligators love to come hide in here, get away from the boat traffic and all. And we've been hearing reports of a good gator in here, and so we put 1, 2, 4 lines right here in one little bitty circle, hoping that we'd get them. And sure enough, we got here. Our branches broke, the rope is burned into the tree, and the end of the line is popped. He got off. And then he was on a tree that gives, that flexes. So that just goes to show you how big and powerful he actually is.
He dug that rope into the branch.
Yeah.
It is currently embedded into that branch. You could tell he was fighting hard.
Hey, ready to go kill the motor? And then he just popped up in the middle of the bayou. Let's see if he comes back up. I don't know.
Can you get shots at him just in open water like that?
Yeah, if we got a big gun, we'll bring like a 223 or 270 or something like that to shoot them on open water. I don't typically like to try to shoot at them with just a 22 mag or 17, because you got to hit them. I mean, pretty much dead in the eye for them to stop with that type of gun.
There's such a difference. Once you see these things up close, there's such a difference between a 6-footer, 8-footer, 10-footer, 12-footer. I mean, once they get to be 11 feet, 10 feet, they're just a completely different animal.
Yeah, and unfortunately, them big ones, they smart. They just like deer and everything else. Once you get them once, they kind of get smart to it, and the chances of catching them again, it's always possible. We've caught them again, but
they just now they know what chicken tastes like. It just goes to show you, it might be fishing, but it's not always catching. That's for sure. We're pushing through last couple of lines to check, and you just briefly stop and take in a lot of this, man. There's ospreys and egrets and pelicans, Spanish moss and cypress trees, gators everywhere. It is a wild place in the bayou. What we got on here?
Oh,
this is the biggest one of the day.
We got us a big one, big daddy do right here, buddy. Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh god, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Hit the side of the boat.
Yeah. Oh, fight. You don't want to come up. He knows he's in trouble.
Oh boy.
He knows he's in trouble. Ridge at him. Watch your fingers, Bubba. Inside the boat. Ooh. Ooh, big boy. Big Nelly Bell.
Get him?
Whenever you ready, buddy.
I'm ready.
There you go. Perfect. We're going to get another one in. Hold on.
Oh, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah! I'm telling you.
He's spinning. Get ready. There you go. There you go. Good job.
Nice shoot.
Woo!
Good job, buddy.
All right. Now we got to get him in the boat.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to pull that off.
We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out, bro.
Biggest gator of the day, Ridge.
Yeah, we're gonna leave the phone.
All right, Ridge and Jacob. How big an alligator do you think that is? Woo!
He's going to be close to 11 foot. He's long, but he's skinny. But he's a big one. Look at his teeth, how big and blunt. You can tell it's an old alligator.
Yeah, they are. We were talking about this before. You said they can get up to 100 years old. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to know, but I age them by their teeth, I'm sure. But you figure that one's been around quite some time.
Oh, that one's been around a good 50, 60 years for sure. I mean, you can just look at him. He's old. By looking at the slime on his back, he's been in the swamp for quite a while. He just came out because the water got so low, and he's a good one. I didn't think we had anything here either, so that was a nice little surprise when he pulled back.
Well, we're gonna call it for the morning, and we're gonna go back. What are we having for lunch/dinner over there?
We got a little crawfish stew, fried alligator, fried frogs. Ridge is gonna bake us some brownies and cookies when we get back. It's gonna be good.
Thanks for joining us in the field. We are gonna go have some food, and then we're gonna sit down with Jacob and Mr. Troy Landry. Keep this podcast going. We'll see you then. Now we're back at Duffy's gas station here, Pierre Part, the famous Duffy's, where each time Troy Landry and Jacob Landry return from a gator trip, especially on Sundays, people gather, locals, people all the way from Canada, people from around this country gather at a tiny little rusty gas station in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. Right now there's about 35, 40 people. Babies, infants, 80-year-olds, moms, dads, little kids, all lined up to shake Troy Landry's hand and to see the gators they brought in. So we got about 16 gators and Troy's boat, 10 gators in our boat, 26 in all of the 600 some tags they'll fill this year. And it's a bit of a party here right now.
6'6". All right, Ridge. Doing good, Ridge. 126, 26, 203, 65. You withdraw. Bye, y'all. Good seeing y'all.
Bye. Thank y'all so much.
Y'all welcome.
Good seeing y'all. Later, brother.
All right, man. Troy, how long you been bringing gators back to Duffy's?
Longer than I want to remember. I'm getting kind of old. Jacob was like Ridge right there when we first started bringing him.
Did you ever think that this many people would come and see this every?
No, and then I think with that virus this year, usually they got way more people than this. But I think people are scared to come around with that coronavirus.
Right, how many gators you guys caught today?
I don't know. I really don't know. 20? But I guess 15 to 20. You pounded them, you counted them? 25 we got?
25.
And then we had about a dozen more long, but I was scared to stay on the lake. It was getting rough.
Yeah, it's getting rough out there. There are people here from all over the country. There's even a mother that wants to get her newborn baby's picture taken with a gator. They're setting up a photo right now that says when the baby was born, and the baby's maybe 3 or 4 weeks old as everybody gathers. Everybody gathering at Duffy's. It's crazy. Now we're inside a giant, probably 800 square foot freezer with bins full of gators. Jacob Landry driving a skid steer pallet jack into the freezer, gets a big scoop, and then scoops ice into the bins of gators to keep them for sales later on. Giant pile of ice that will keep these gators cool until a buyer comes or a distributor comes to get them. It is a operation. It's not a hunting operation. It's not a guiding operation. It is an industrial operation. It looks like a fish market, smells like a fish market. This is definitely not the North American model of wildlife conservation. This is definitely not hunting. This is market selling of gators. by some people I really respect. And it is a full-fledged operation.
All right, here we are. We're like a couple of substitute teachers playing old movies for you guys. We hung over. We went out to the club last night, and then this is what we're doing. This is what the best of is. And we are self-aware here in the cult, and we're willing to tell you the truth, unlike other podcasts that are controlled by the leftist media and Donald Trump. Right, Phil?
Yes, sir.
Woo! I love this show. Best of. Love it. Now, you know where we're going to go next? You probably won't even believe where we're going to go next because we've already been to Louisiana. We've already been to Maryland. You're like, where could we go next? What could we do? How could this be more exciting? I know you're asking yourself that. Well, I'm going to tell you. We're going to go to Yellowstone National Park, the jewel of the West, and we're going to go inside the belly of the beast with Dr. Dan Staler. And you know what we're going to do, Phil? We're going to track down a marauding, murderous cougar that has killed 17 ungulates in the past 2 months. We're going to figure out what the hell he's doing over there and why with Dr. Dan. Is that better, Phil? Is that more exciting? Am I giving more intrigue for the listeners?
Shaking in my boots.
Boom. Go to Yellowstone.
So, Dan, we're overlooking Gardner, right? Gardner, Montana. Gardner, Montana. I always wonder if I'm in Wyoming or Montana.
We are right now actually at the 45th parallel, straight down to our right. So we're hard to say if we're in Montana or Wyoming right now. We're right on the line.
On the border.
We're right on the line.
Staying on the border.
Yeah.
Quickly describe just like what we're looking at here.
So we're looking at what we refer to as the Gardner Basin, the northern range of Yellowstone, and it is one of the premier wintering areas for a lot of Yellowstone's ungulates. Elk, the hoofed animals, the elk, the pronghorn, bighorn sheep, mule deer, some white-tailed deer, bison, of course. And you're looking at it right here. We're in the heart and soul of it, and it's an incredibly important part of the system. Sustains a lot of the migratory herds that use this area and depend upon it in winter because of its lower elevation, less snowpack, forage availability. Of course, we're here in July, so we're looking at summer range, starting to dry out. We've had some wet, pretty wet spring, but in early summer, but starting to get brown as it does. We got this little band of pronghorn here, and this is, where you see a lot of the pronghorn summering in the wintertime. They'll also settle into these lowlands right here in front of us, but Yellowstone River, of course, cuts out of the park right there, and that's sort of that migratory funnel for a lot of those ungulates, particularly the elk herd, the northern elk herd, kind of one of the most controversial, culturally significant elk herds in the region, really. Always has been. That's always been a big source of debate. We can talk about that later, but yeah, it's quite an area. It's I always think of this area as sort of our our American Serengeti. I live just across the way there. You can kind of see my house on the other side of the valley above the town of Gardner there, and it's not uncommon to look down and see everything: bison, pronghorn, bighorn sheep, deer, elk, all within your view shed. Packs of wolves use these cougars. It's all cougar country.
You ever feel like you're in a time machine?
Absolutely. I mean, childhood dream living in a place like this where you could go back in time and see what the landscape looked across our great country. We've got a vignette of it right here.
Yeah, this river just kind of connects everything and brings everything together. To stand here and know we're headed to a possible kill site for a mountain lion and see a fawn, antelope, and a couple of does by the looks of it. This is, you never know what you're going to see in Yellowstone.
Absolutely.
And you've kind of got a backdoor pass, I imagine.
Absolutely. Feel very lucky to live here.
Well, let's go see what we can find.
Alrighty.
So we got a coyote about, 75 yards? He doesn't even seem like he cares much about us. What's he doing?
No. Looks like a younger coyote, maybe a yearling or something. He's could be in this area because there's a carcass here. We're about 60 yards from that cluster of that cougar's kill site, and so he might be lingering around. It could be just a good spot for him, but I just saw him do a little scrape scent mark there. Not that far away, so he probably sees us and maybe he's just curious. Of course, these guys in the park aren't getting bullets lobbed at him, so a little bit more
curious than that.
More curious. Looks like he's got a little bit of a scrappy tail there, his summer coat. There he goes, trotting off. Yeah, looks like a young one.
I mean, I know that there's an adversarial relationship between wolves and coyotes.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
they If there's a mountain lion kill site today, generally
They will kill coyotes and they'll eat them.
Yeah.
Unlike wolves just kill them to kind of get them out of the picture. Cougars will actually feed on them, and it typically is around a kill site.
Yeah.
They're not actively hunting them, but they're opportunistic. Of course, you can hear ground squirrels right now around us, so he's probably hunting ground squirrels.
He looks like he's on
Yeah, he does.
It's so interesting to be in a place like this and to see a coyote that normally, if he was living on a ranch down in the valley,
He'd be gone.
he'd be gone.
He'd be gone or he'd be gone.
It's like a study in conditioning, right?
It is,
wildlife,
yeah.
We're all conditioned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's a cool sight.
that is. So what we're doing here, Ben, is we've got maybe 10 or so GPS points that were logged by the collar that this male lion wears. His number's M220. We collared him this winter. We actually collared him out by Tower Falls, so it's a good 20 some odd miles to the south of us here. And that was probably the core of his winter range. He was about, I think we aged him at about 3.5, 4 years of age. He was about 140 pounds. And, that's a younger Tom here. He's stuck around this summer, so we seem to, in our population, have right now a bunch of younger males coming into this area. We did catch just the other day over on that cliff band in back of us a big old gnarly, scarred up, mature Tom on one of our remote cameras. So he's probably the king around here, but these younger males are coming in and sorting out where they might slip in and establish a territory. And this male cougar we've been following the last 60 some odd days for predation work. He's ranged everywhere from here out to about 15, 20 miles that way, down into the Yellowstone River corridor and the Black Canyon of the Yellowstone, which is up and over that ridge right behind us. And he's just been looping around here for summer, making his kills, making his living, and establish maybe his territory. And this is the last cluster of our predation sequence. So ultimately, the objective of this work has been to understand cougar food habits and predation patterns and kill rate. How often are they killing? What are they feeding on? And that feeds into our long-term monitoring, that then we can more accurately understand what role do cougars play here in Yellowstone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, too, how many cluster sites like this will you visit on a single lion in that time?
Yeah, and over that 60 days, this is a guess without looking at the numbers, I think a couple hundred clusters we've searched. Some clusters, we run the data that basically the way these GPS collars work is they last about 2 years based on how we have them programmed. That's dictated by the battery life of the collar. It is getting a fix every hour around the clock. And it uploads the data via a satellite that we can access on the computer, so we can check in. It's not real time, but it usually lags by 12 to 24 hours. What we do is we wait for about a week's worth of data to accumulate. Then we run it through what we call a cluster model that basically identifies any cluster where you have 2 points, GPS points, within 200 meters of one another, and within 6 days. So what's beautiful about this technology to study predation in cougars is when a cougar makes a kill, you tend to cache it, and if they're not displaced by a bear or a pack of wolves, they will tend to stay on it for several days until it's used up. Of course, that depends on the size. If it's a small newborn fawn, they might only be there for half a day before it's gone. If it's an adult cow elk, they might be there for 4 or 5 days. But cougar clusters are usually kills are easy to identify with cougars, because once they make a cluster, they really kind of hone in on it. Once in a while, and particularly with males, they tend to be a little bit more exploratory and travel during kill events where they'll make a kill. For example, this male killed a couple weeks ago an adult cow elk down below us here. And he would go all the way during the day, travel all the way up, mile and a half that way to bed. Up in the cliffs. I mean,
Really?
And for a cougar, they're all about concealing and being secretive, and that's a big part of their success, particularly in a landscape like Yellowstone, where you got grizzly bears, black bears, and wolves that are always trying to find food, and they're easily can displace cougars. And so his MO is to get somewhere safe and secure, out of sight. And males tend to do that. Sometimes males will also feed for a day and then do a big travel for a day and then come back to a kill site. Females that make kills, female cougars, tend to stick right there. They also can get displaced, of course, too, and they have the whole risk if they've got kittens where there's a risk of mortality there if a pack of wolves or another cougar even, or a black bear, grizzly bear comes in. But But yeah, so a couple hundred clusters over the last 60 days. I don't know how many kills. Again, I'd have to look and see how many that is. But this male's been killing primarily elk. Of course, this study was designed during the peak calving period. June 1st in Yellowstone is thought to be sort of our major, pulse of elk calves, average calving date. Some are born late May, some are, born the last couple weeks even. But usually around June 1st. And so we kind of set this up to understand how many elk calves are getting. So his diet's been, I would say, primarily elk calves, but he's killed a couple spike bulls, yearlings, bull elk. He killed a mule deer fawn last week, newborn mule deer fawn. Cougar diet's pretty varied. It really kind of depends what's available to them. But this time of the year, young of the year, fawns and calves they're just easy. They're safer prey package for them to take down and handle. So yeah, that's kind of what we tend to find.
It's not a bad place for a cougar to live.
No, not at all. It's gorgeous right here, and they have access to good hunting grounds, but also good escape terrain.
Yeah,
very much part of it.
Let's go see what we find.
Yeah.
So you think that it's
about
possible?
10 yards from one point here, and we're in this thick patch of juniper, and this looks like probably a bed site up in here.
Yeah.
And what we'll do, and usually we can find hair where they bed. There's enough points here, and I'll just look at the map because they're kind of scattered. You get a little bit of error from the GPS collar, but it looks like bulk of the points are just through here.
Yeah.
But I think that's a bed site there. We'll come check that out. Oh yeah. So here we have elk calf.
Yeah.
Elk calf kill.
Imagine that.
Newborn, that's just what you would predict here. And this is pretty classic. I mean, there's not much left, right? You got what we're looking at here is the lower mandible. And of course you can easily identify it's a calf because you don't have the teeth eruption. Of course it's small too. It's only about 4.5 inches long from the tip down through the mandible. And you can see where they don't, they won't crunch up the teeth. That's just indigestible, hard to chew and crunch up. And then we see the skull cap here. So that crunched right into the skull cap. Of course, the brain would be a nutrient-rich source of food for any meat eater. And so they were quick to, that coot lion was quick to feed on that. And then we've got a front leg, the hoof, the lower leg, but you can see, they've crunched through it. In cougar's jaw, I mean, they have a really powerful bite force. They have a short rostrum, a short jaw, big powerful muscles, masseter muscles that wrap around the outside of their heads and attach to the top of their skull. And their teeth, of course, their carnassial teeth, their molars, premolars, top and bottom, make that really powerful bite force. So they're pretty big bone crunchers and eaters, and they do get a lot of nutrients from that, both from the bone itself and from the marrow inside. And this is pretty classic. I mean, a cougar that kills an elk calf will leave typically about this behind, which is just a bunch of bone shards.
Yeah.
The teeth, top of the skull, lower leg.
So they've ingested basically
everything.
Everything.
And what we'll do here is we'll look around to see if we see bear scat. My guess is, with a smaller prey package like this, this is an elk calf probably born in the first couple weeks of June, early June. And this kill was made on July 6th, so maybe it was about a month old.
Yeah.
It was probably, it could have been at that stage where it was hiding and mom was off grazing and coming back to nurse, or it could have just been taken down right here with this lion watching as a group of cows maybe filtered through in the evening or at night feeding through here. I'll look at the data. I think this cluster started in the middle of the night, which is more typical when cougars are out on the landscape hunting. They're active at night hunting.
So you imagine that the calving grounds are here, like maybe this elk was born in this
general
zone.
Area. Yeah, I mean, at a month old, it could have been born within a mile of here, I would say, in this area. But at that first month of life, they're staying pretty close to where they were born, unless mom wants to get up and move to summer range with it. This Gardner Basin area is important calving grounds for cow elk for sure. But what we'll do here is take a look and see if we see any sign. What I always try to do is we try to determine, was this cougar displaced by a larger carnivore? And that would either be a black bear, grizzly, or a pack of wolves. Based on how long he was here and the size of this, I would say he probably got most of this. You'll get ravens and magpies, eagles sometimes that come in, but you know, the specialty of cougars, of what they're known for, is caching and concealing their prey, and that's a real, it's an adaptation to really protect the food, hard-earned food resources. You can see here on the edge of this thick patch of conifer. My guess is you usually see a pile of grass where it was buried, and right here behind us, in this shaded area, probably it was back in here, I would guess.
Yep.
Maybe fed in right here.
Plenty of shade, plenty
here,
of concealment.
Bone shards in here. So this is probably where he dragged it to feed on. And you can see where it's perfectly concealed. You know, ravens and magpies will have a hard time finding this. A little bit of tufts of hair there. This is the end of the scapula he chewed up.
So he would pull that calf back in here, cache it. Would he bury
it? Yeah, he might bury it. You know what we find with calves is it's small enough, a newborn calf is small enough that they might not necessarily cache it. They'll just start feeding on it. Certainly with anything larger than an elk calf, they almost automatically begin caching even before they feed, at least dragging to cover. So that's what he did here. I don't see any scat. You know, this area could have both black bear and grizzly bear. I'm guessing he got most of the biomass on this calf. Yep. Which would be, I don't know, a newborn elk calf is gonna, you know, be 20 some odd pounds, maybe a month old, you know, 30, 40 pounds of meat. So good meal.
Well, how long would that satiate him for? Was he going to go, like you said, go off a couple of miles and take,
typically we find, and this is, again, long-term, I'm kind of giving you averages here, but just to give you an idea, an adult male cougar, of course, with cougar life history, they don't play any role in feeding young. They're off on their own, and they only associate with females to breed. Females are the caretaker, they're the hardworking single mom. The males breed the female, usually in Yellowstone in late winter, although female cougars could get bred any time of the year. They cycle, estrus cycle once every 28 days or so. But we see a birthing pulse in May, June, and July in a place like Yellowstone because that's when a lot of food's out for moms. But a male like this typically will make a kill on average every 7 to 10 days. Yeah. Of course, it all is dictated by the size of the prey package. A small elk calf will sustain him for less time than a large animal. I forget exactly when his last kill was. Oh, I do remember. It was yesterday. We searched it. It was about 4 miles that way. It was a yearling bull elk, and there was a lot of black bear scat around it, and he was only at that site for about 15 hours. So my guess is what happened is he killed that, was kicked off by a bear, came down here, made this kill.
Spent a little more time here, right? Yeah. So you're like CSI Yellowstone.
Very much. I mean, it's really fun to come to these sites, look for the clues, look for the evidence, try to piece the story together. Of course, we have the it's old school field biology. I mean, biologists have been doing this with carnivore research for 50, 60, 70 years. I mean, you can go back to, our ancestors, out there using the same techniques to try to piece together where prey was or where competitors like carnivores were. So we employ those same tactics today, but we also benefit from the technology. I mean, you see me, I walked in here with a GPS unit. I had his GPS data loaded in here. We can come right to the site. It's a really powerful tool to get accurate data on what these animals are doing.
Yeah, and as you said, imagine it's from some people not as exciting as hunting, but incredibly important to our general knowledge base on how predation happens, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many opinions and thoughts about what carnivores are doing and how they hunt and how they feed and what impacts they have, and we all have those opinions. And I think what we as scientists really cherish is having, data, right? To really critically evaluate it and truly understand what's going on. Without cougars are a great example in Yellowstone. In the last 25 years, wolves have come back, right? And that was a huge conservation success story. It was very controversial. It is to this day. But I think what we've really learned is having really good information about what role an animal like a wolf or a cougar has helps us better understand how to whether we want to manage them, whether we don't want to manage them, like in a place like Yellowstone where we just step back and let nature take its course. We don't have the luxury of having protected preserves around our country like Yellowstone. So those of us that live in this area and hunt and fish and enjoy the landscape and our public lands, and we have to coexist with all these animals, whether they're elk or cougars, and the more understanding we have of them, the better we are at living with them and protecting them and understanding what impacts we have on them and what our activities as humans have. So this all feeds into that, and it's really incredibly important.
Yeah, and you're definitely kind of at the kind of the nexus of we as Americans are drawn to these charismatic predators. We can explore that all day long, but we're definitely drawn to them. Yeah. Some people are drawn to them in a more sympathetic way. Mm-hmm. Some people in a more logical way, more pragmatic way. Some people, based on a lot of hunters, as we were talking about walking up here, a lot of hunters are drawn to them from the propaganda of the last century, where we needed to kill them all and displace them so we could ranch and live in relative without bears and cougars killing our calves and killing our cows and killing our profits. So it's you kind of sit at this strange nexus of all those things happening together, and they all have influence.
Hey, we're back from Yellowstone. What a lovely trip, Phil. It's nice this time of year. The dead cold. You can't even breathe. We got a lot of other things to do. So that wraps up our In the Field segment, but we really look forward to doing more In the Field stuff next year, specifically turkey season. Got a lot of plans for turkey season. I want to take you guys in the field with us and shoot some gobblers in the face, and hopefully we can coax Phil the engineer and other friends along the way for that in 2021. Now, there's some important moments in our lives that we'll never forget, some things that we did in 2021 that will move us along into the future. And one of those things was, Phil, ready for this? And this was a controversy between Phil and I. We had a big argument about this. We almost came to fisticuffs. Almost came to blows over this. And it was burying the hatchet with Dr. Barry Gilbert. Burying the hatchet with our buddy, Dr. Barry Gilbert. And Phil, can you just tell people, just recap that you really didn't want this to happen?
You're pushing it kind of far. I think. Barry sent us a book afterwards. He's been very generous. I at the time I just said that I didn't think we would make any headway, any progress. But I think I was mostly wrong. Do you?
Mostly wrong. I mean, we knew the ultimate argument to kill bears or not kill bears with Barry was never going to be solved. But we could inch closer to just being friends with the guy. Now, and if people don't remember, Barry came on in 2019, and it was the most contentious interview we've ever done. He yelled at me. He got mad because I didn't give him a hat. He wanted to storm out of the studio, and we had an argument of sorts about whether or not the North American model of conservation was appropriate in terms of enacting it and killing and hunting bears of all shapes and sizes. So it was probably the most talked about episode of the show ever. And this year we felt the need to follow it up by giving Barry a call and talking it through with him. And so here is us burying the hatchet with Dr. Barry. Barry, how are you, sir?
Doing okay. Enjoying summer. Isolated up here on an island, which is kind of nice. I'm doing a lot of swimming and sailing, so
that's nothing wrong with that.
Keeps me away from people.
Tell us how the pandemic has been, how the last few months has been for you and your family up there.
Oh, pretty good, actually. We're at the low end of the pandemic. Everybody's going around with masks on, and including going on our ferry to our island. But I don't know anybody that's been positive. How things? I noticed Montana's in pretty good shape and going down too, eh?
Yeah, it's been good. We were in the office for a while and then got shuffled out because things were on the rise, but now it seems like things are leveling out. So, yeah, we feel good in Montana. Phil, you feel pretty good? We got Phil, our engineer, here. Say hi to Barry.
Hey, Barry, how's it going? Yeah,
Hi, Phil.
Hi. Yeah, it's definitely... It's good to see a lot of people out in masks around here, and it's a little less anxious than it used to be, which I think is good. People are just moving on with their lives like they have to. So
Yeah, the border being closed too stopped all chances of me going to Montana. I like to get down to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends down that way.
Yep.
But we can fly in if I want to go to Ottawa and fly to Bozeman. I can do that, but I'm not sure I'll get back into Canada.
Yeah.
We've had a few people come down from Canada, but it's a sketchy experience, one that you really want to have to come to Montana for. So we definitely understand that. Well, we glad we got you, man.
Okay.
As I was saying over email, there's not been a conversation that we've had on this show. We've had hundreds of conversations over time that got as much commentary, as much conversation going as what we called a contentious interview with you back last year. And we talk about you all the time. It's such the thing that we talked about, predation and bears, is such an important thing. We've been talking to a lot of individuals about it. But also I think just how, what was said, how it was said, how everything ended up, everybody had a reaction to it. And so time has passed. And all I wanted to do was have you on and chat about, what had happened. And I guess my first question is, what was, after you came in and we did the interview, what happened in your world after we aired that thing?
Not a whole lot. I had a couple of trolls that went on Amazon and dumped shit on my book without having seen it at all. They clearly were offended by me. One of the guys said, I was a old man that didn't get enough attention and I wanted more attention. And he said, if you can believe this, he said, so we get it. You had a bad day. Well, shit, I had a bad life after that bear nailed me, and I had 2 months in the hospital on my back. So it was a little more than a bad day. But, I can see why people get cranked up. My knowledge is limited to, observing bears. I've had thousands of hours of doing it, and I challenge anybody that wants to take me on to say they've done more watching of bears. But I'm kind of like an anthropologist watching a culture do its thing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to bear attacks, I'm not an expert. When it comes to population biology and modeling and how many bears there are, I only know what I read and what's in the press. I try to follow the Grizzly Bear Advisory Committee that your governor put up, but apparently it hasn't come out with any recommendations yet. But they've got 18 people on there. I imagine they got 22 opinions.
That's the beautiful thing about what we talked about, is that it does bring in so many different opinions. We went recently and visited Yellowstone National Park, and we tracked some mountain lions with a predator biologist by the name of Dr. Daniel Staler. His perspective was a beautiful one, a very tangible one. We just had Dr. Valerius Geist on last episode, talked to him about his perspective. So we've been just trying to mine as many of these perspectives as we can, and I think it all shows that this is a complex issue. There's a lot going on, and it really gets people's hackles up. And we've also, I'll tell you, Barry, had a neurologist on, a neuroscientist on, and talked about kind of, our brains, the psychology of why some people really love predators or love grizzly bears particularly, and why some people have such a negative reaction to them. And so it's been interesting to learn over time how these things come about. So it's good to do that. Do you feel like
the sociology of people's values and whether they're going to change? I try pretty much. I've read enough to stay away from that because I don't have any illusions about or delusions about changing people's minds. I just have my experience, and that's what my book was about. My 35 to 40 years experience with bears. And at the end, I try to take on some of politics and management because I'm offended that the conservation of bears gets a dollar sign on it, and the bears generally lose. But that's just something that I learned from experience in a national park. We all think that national parks are total protection for bears, but they're not protected from fast vehicles or trains in northern Montana and a whole bunch of things. In fact, if you look at national parks, I looked at Banff and Jasper in Canada at one time, and Yellowstone, and the death of bears from humans is equivalent to a hunting season. I mean, it's not like they're totally protected.
Yeah.
And the same goes for wolves in Denali Park. I mentioned this in my book that one of the research biologists there back in I guess it was in the 70s, told me every wolf pack in Denali Park is subjected to trapping because they range so widely, you know. And when they go outside the park, of course, they get nailed. So, so much for conservation of wolves.
Yeah, when we were talking to Dr. Geist last week, we talked a little. His ideas, like the two competing ideas he presented, were this idea of protectionism, and that was connected to environmentalism, and then this idea of intelligent intervention on the wildlife management side, which meant hunting, other tools for managing predator populations. Be interested to hear what you think about that because like I said, we've done 4 or 5 shows where I've tried to present as many varying opinions. We have Chris Derrimont on later, who tends to be on your side of things when it comes to bears. But you have any thoughts about this protectionism versus intelligent intervention?
Oh yeah, one of the conundrums I think about is why we went from endangered status to a desire to have a hunting season in the three states around Yellowstone. It just seems to me a transition. Once you've got to the number, small as it is, say 700, 800, 600 bears, all of a sudden you have a hunting season on them. I mean, my impression from the media was that people couldn't wait to kill them, whether it's by hunting or let the ranchers nail them or shoot them from helicopters. So I don't have much truck with trophy hunting. It isn't, a bear isn't something to eat, although British Columbia tried to have a season in which you could kill a grizzly bear if you took the meat home. And to me, that's a backdoor approach to conservation. I just think there's so much interest, Yellowstone isn't the only place that people go to observe bears, photograph them, all those sort of things. Teton Park, and then you go up the coast of British Columbia. There are 30 businesses on the coast alone that emphasize bear viewing as part of their trips, whether they're whale watching or, marine mammals in general. So I could see going to bear viewing. Now it's trickier in Rockies. You have to find a burn with a big berry patch where bears are concentrating if you're trying to run a business taking people to see grizzly bears. It's tough to go and say this afternoon we're going to go and look at grizzly bears. Even in Yellowstone, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the problem with wildlife viewing in general. They don't necessarily know they're being viewed or that somebody wants to view them. Can I ask you another thing that happened from the last show is people want to jump to the conclusion that you're fully anti-hunting, that all hunting in your mind doesn't work. Can you kind of describe your thoughts on maybe ungulate hunting of deer and elk, and then hunting of a grizzly bear? Like just kind of throw that out there for everybody.
Oh, I'm not anti-hunting at all. I taught wildlife management. I wouldn't have the job if I was anti-hunting. I think half my students had rifles in their half tons. In fact, one guy asked me, we were going to Yellowstone in the winter. He says, is it okay if I bring my 30-30 and my half ton? I might see a deer on the way. I said, I don't think that's going to work. But no, I think hunting is important. Elk, deer, you name it, caribou, moose. That gets a lot of people interested in wildlife management. It's how our country started. Lewis and Clark shot just just under or over 1,000 antelope crossing the country. So they couldn't have made it without. Granted, that isn't permitted hunting, but they lived off the land, and there's still people in Alaska that basically their only protein is what they shoot or trap or whatever. So I'm not. I think hunting prey, ungulates, is absolutely traditional, and I have nothing against it. When it comes to carnivores, I sometimes wonder people with high-powered rifles that sit in trees over salmon streams and shoot out there at 1,200 yards. My daughter read something in my book, and she says, "Dad, it sounds like a search and destroy mission," because the hunter isn't risking anything by sitting in a tree with a guide, and some of them, if the hunter's jumpy, the guide will shoot the bear. So I just don't see shooting a grizzly bear for either the pelt or a skull, if you can keep the skull. And my impression is most people don't have much use for learning about the bears. That is, following and photographing them and spending time observing them. They want to, on the coast of BC, they fly in an aircraft. The guide outfitter picks them up with a half ton on a logging road, takes them up to the stand, and if they're lucky, they can shoot a bear, and he can be back watching football and drinking beer in the afternoon. Now, that's hardly a wilderness trip. Hunting bears used to be a matter of going out for 2 weeks and doing a lot of tromping up and down mountains or up and down streams, whatever it is. So you hear where I'm going? It's the technology that it takes it a bit out of the
I mean, I think that's
class.
Yeah, I think that's what we talk about those ethics a lot here. Fair chase, fair kill, different ideas. I think, especially in that last interview too, people take umbrage to this idea that, we would generalize hunters or use a straw man of, maybe there are plenty of asshole hunters out there. I'm sure plenty of people that do it. And I've run into some people that in hunting camp where I didn't necessarily feel like they had the same value system as I do. And, so there's no one here that's going to say that it's a completely pure thing. But at the same time, those examples I feel are rare and extreme, but they do happen. Yeah. And so that's the balance I think people that listen to this podcast would like to hear. Like, hey, look, conservation is complicated. Let's talk about what are the examples of this, where this hunt works from a conservation element. And then you can boil down kind of like the personal motivation, because that's so varied and so impossible to nail down.
Yeah, well, the gold standard is fair chase. Eh? You put out some effort, you take some risk yourself to what you're hunting. Now, there isn't too much risk to a person if you're hunting antelope on the prairies, pronghorn, but there's still, you have to know a lot about the animal to get up on a pronghorn, and even if you shoot it at a distance, it takes a whole lot of stalking to get within range. And, the non-fair chase are the jerks that go out and see a herd of elk and start, flock hunting or herd hunting. They just fire lead into the middle of a bunch of elk and hope that something clicks. To me, that's, it's a matter of ethics and morality.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's not something we accept or promote here. And again, I always, people say those things to me. I had a vegan, my friend, a vegan philosopher by the name of Robert C. Jones, and he said, well, you're a pretty thoughtful hunter. You feel like that's a rarity or the exception? I said, there's no way for me to know, but I assume if I was a hardcore camper and somebody said, well, campers litter, I'd be like, yeah, those are not my campers. Those are, if there's somebody who's doing something illegal or extremely unethical, no hunter or no hunting organization would promote or accept that. So that's a tough thing. I think that's a tough thing for listeners of this show to hear, because we all know that's just not a great thing.
The reactions you received, was that on your blog, or was that just people calling you and you didn't record it? I had a look at a number of your blog sites and went on Meat Eater, and I couldn't find any commentary about
the post,
our contentious interview.
Yeah, well, I want to go over that a little bit. But the post on Instagram has 300-400 comments. Not that we need to revisit that right now. The post had a bunch of comments, and we get emails all the time about it. Emails is the place where I like to get most of my commentary because it seems to be the most rational, the most less free thumbing it as it would be a commentary online. But it was one of that conversation. I think it was because of the contentious nature of it, because there was upset moments in it. I think that's what drew people in. But like I said, the reason, number one, you said in this show, I don't know if you remember this, you said that you didn't get a hat. You remember that you didn't get a hat from me. So I'm going to send you. Me and Phil are going to sign a hat and send you a hat because we're burying the damn hatchet, Barry Gilbert.
And send me the recipe for the salty Gilbert.
Yes, and we're going to send you.
I got a kick out of that, but I should have cooled my jets earlier on. I think what happened with me is I liked your setup there. I talked to the gals going in the front door, and I thought this would be really neat to talk about my book and some of the issues in my book. And somehow we got off the rail. In fact, hit the third rail, it seems, and I just got pissed, and I apologize for that. But
see, the hatchet is buried. No need to apologize. I think in the end, for me, as I thought about that, and like I said, we talk about you a lot on this show. We talk about those moments, and it's essential to learn from them, and it's essential to say okay, what happened there? Was it the conversation? Was it kind of just, did it happen randomly? How can we make sure that when we have a disagreement, a conversation where we know we're going to disagree, that we can work through, and maybe we don't even find common ground, but maybe we still can work through those, the feelings and emotions, and try to get people to a point where some objective reasoning happened, and people can walk away knowing there can be a disagreement where people say, we're just never going to agree on this, and then we can move on from it and still learn something or other. And
the other point that I try to make with people is that your conversation has to be as complex as the issue is. Yeah. A lot of people want to simplify it. And, speaking of Val Geist, he has a straightforward wildlife management model that he likes to work for everything. And to me, that's a little too simple. Now, it works for Val because he's always been a goat and sheep and elk hunter. He knows a lot about them. He's written books on pronghorn and elk and muleys. But I just think I have a problem with that model being applied to all the carnivores. If this isn't too harsh a statement, we have the war going on against carnivores. And some people, any way you kill them, look at Alaska now. They've just decided that they want to get rid of more carnivores with the wrong notion that they're going to get more caribou and moose hunting out of that. And that has no scientific basis whatsoever. I think that kind of thinking by the Board of Game, and these aren't trolls, these are people that clearly they're political, but they're responding, I think, to the majority of hunters who believe that if every bear you kill, you've saved all the game that they're going to eat. And we tried that with salmon at one time. The British Columbia government in the 50s had people with high-powered guns on government boats out shooting sea lions because they believed the sea lions were reducing the salmon. And of course it was overfishing and too many canneries and all that, and they decimated the salmon for a long time. But they decided to take it out on a carnivore.
Yeah, and I think that's a key.
Go ahead. Of sea lions, I can remember the paper that I read decades ago, and they didn't have salmon in their guts at all. They were halibut or a whole bunch of fish that had no commercial value. So that was almost hate the carnivore of your flavor.
Yeah, we
and-
definitely I talked about that with Val Geist and some other things, and just this thing came up, and I like what you said about like the conversation has to be as complex as the topic, and that just goes to show. I mean, something that I've learned through talking to people on all sides of this issue is and you articulated it well there. Like, there's some people that there's a protectionist idea, and then there's this idea that for every wolf you kill, every bear you kill, you're saving X number of ungulates or X number of deer and elk. And it's just not that simple on either side. There's cohabitation, there's population dynamics, there's so many things. Sure. And so, luckily we can have these conversations and people can hear, what essentially I think is your view on one side, maybe Val's on another, although both of your views I think have nuance to them. So that's what I wanted to make sure that people could hear from you again, and we could laugh, have a Salty Gilbert. Salty Gilbert, by the way, Phil can attest, is delicious. So,
I was skeptical, and I was proven wrong. It is a very good drink.
Tell Barry what it's all about, Phil.
Well, it's got a packet of Element Hydration electrolyte drink mix to keep you hydrated. It's got some hard seltzer water, and vodka, and it's surprisingly balanced and smooth.
It is smooth and salty, salty like you were last year. I
sounds like
it,
a private drinker's delight.
So yes, we hopefully we're going to send you some packets of Element, which title sponsors this program, and some White Claw and stuff to celebrate, and a hat. So all you got to do, Barry, we're going to send all that stuff to you. All you have to do is send me a picture of you wearing the hat and drinking your Salty Gilbert, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll do that for sure.
So we can consider.
And I'll send you one of my books too. Have you got a copy?
I don't have a copy here. No, you brought one, but I think you took it with you. You're mad at me.
That was my day of vindictiveness, I guess. I'll mail you one.
That's beautiful. We'll trade you. I'll get your address, and we will mail you a THC care package, and you mail me some books.
Okay.
All right, Barry.
Getting back to grizzly bears, in the last couple of days I put on my thinking cap, and I thought, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about bear behavior with you, Ben and Phil?
Sure.
Or let's ignore the trolls and their values. But what I came to think about was our relationship with bears and relationship of bears to their foods. Like the behavior of bears on salmon streams is totally related to the surplus of food. And the bears there are like black bears. I mean, they're real pussycats. I almost stepped on a 700-pounder one day. I was moving too fast through Book's camp. And the bear jumps up and he looks at me and said, like as though to say, I thought we had an agreement. You'd stay on your damn trails and you'd leave the woods to us. And the thing could have bluff charged me. It could have swatted at me. It just jumped away. And it was a dominant male. And I thought, there's got to be a story there. When grizzly bears are super hungry or their jaws are damaged and they're real old, like the one that killed Tim Treadwell, that's a real exception in that country because all of those bears, Tim spent 13 years almost close enough to pet those coastal brown bears. So I'm getting back to the relationship. Our relationship to salmon bears is a function of the bears' surplus of food that's available, and they don't even challenge each other. That's like you and I with a room full of steaks. I'm not going to fight you for a steak when all I have to do is gobble the rest of them that are around the room. So the bears are the same way, and our relationship to them in Yellowstone, of course, is very different. They're more food stressed. They're likely to be food conditioned if we habituate them too much. But food conditioning is never a problem on salmon streams. I've had watched situations where a person illegally had food in a pack and a bear got to it on the stream. It didn't bother with the food at all. they're not interested in our food if they've got a natural food. But that isn't true of a semi-starved deer in Glacier Park or Yellowstone or Teton or anything like that. If they're super hungry, you better watch out, because they're going to come as close as they can to get belly full. It's either you steal food or you die.
Yeah, it's a cohabitation thing too, right? Garbage cans in rural areas where bears don't have a lot of food. There's lots of examples, even here in Montana, of those type of things.
Well, and it's the same with raccoons. If you want a problem in some cities, just leave some good old-fashioned garbage around.
Perfect. Let me ask you this question. It just popped in my mind. And we got to run here, so just make us the last question. Because I try to just narrow down where in the spectrum we are in terms of grizzly bears and when they're killed. If we ate grizzly bears, would that change? I'm not saying this is a fully hypothetical, but if we ate grizzly bears after we hunted them, would that change your feelings at all?
Well, you might convince me if the person needed the meat to feed his family or whatever. It gets back to basic motivations. Why do you want to shoot an animal like that? And if somebody says to me, well, there's nothing else in my area, and if I'm going to put something in the freezer for my family, I'll take a bear. And I'm sure a lot of Native Americans and Native Canadians have done this in the past. But by and large, I would say it's unlikely that that's going to occur. I guess I'm saying I don't agree with that, because I don't think it's very likely.
Got it.
In other words, I'm not objecting because people don't eat the bear.
That's what I was asking. I was asking it in a backwards way. But yeah, I think that's what, if we can understand each other's objections to the activity, then we can start to suss out ways where maybe we can find common ground. And I imagine you would agree that conservation and wildlife management is finding this common ground, because there are these divergent views that aren't going to go away. And finding some way to come in the middle is one of the ways.
And I'm an outlier, I look at the bear and know bears, and I think of them as a big dog. They're closely related to dogs, and we don't yet shoot dogs to eat them. Now they do in Asian countries. Dog is a delicacy, and God knows Lewis and Clark ate a few dogs on their way too, and horses. But I just know so much about bears and their culture that I don't think of them as a target. I just think there's so much that we haven't learned. Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm the advanced thought process on this, but we've come to realize that killer whales are variable and have cultures around the world. They've tracked their vocalizations, and there are numbers of species. Of course, chimpanzees with Jane Goodall is a good example too. We used to shoot mountain gorillas as a sport, and so once we, George Schaller studied mountain gorillas and found out a lot about them, and all of a sudden nobody wants to kill them anymore, except starving locals. So,
gotcha. Well, Barry, we're gonna leave it right there. We could talk about this for hours and hours, as I know we could. But moreover, I'm glad that we have buried the hatchet. You're gonna get a hat, a Salty Gilbert recipe mix from us, and we hope you guys stay well up there.
I'm very impressed that you contacted me again, and I'm glad we did this. So let's do it again in a couple of months.
Hell yeah, let's do it again. And hey, you stay well, and best to your family and your wife up there, and we'll talk real soon. Look for that package in the mail.
Thanks a lot.
All right,
so
Barry.
long, Dan.
See ya.
Phil.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Phil, that was Barry Gilbert. That was cool, man.
Yeah, it was.
You feel better now?
Yes. Yeah, I think it was worth it.
Catharsis.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, as we wind down here on the best of 2020 and we look forward to next year, We certainly thank Barry Gilbert. He did send us a book, as Phil said, a signed book for Phil and I. I think that was literally the hatchet getting buried under 20 feet of dirt. And now Barry's a friend of ours. We love him. He loves us. Just goes to show you, you can come together around THC. Let us be the glue that holds us all together in the new year. Here's another time where I was really proud of the show and proud of what we put together and happy to have told a story. We told a story of Mark Carter, professional snowboarder, complete badass. I kind of have a man crush on him. I'm not going to lie. He's a wonderful human. I spent time with him and Joe Farinato bear hunting in Montana, and then we sat down in the studio to tell his story, to interview him like we would anyone else. But what we got at the end was expected, but the way that we got it, I think, the detail we got was unexpected on my end. So Mark was involved in a felony poaching incident in his hometown of Ten Sleep, Wyoming. He does have felonies on his record. He is a poacher. He cannot own firearms or be in possession of firearms for the rest of his life unless the conviction is overturned. And he's been punished as a poacher. And normally we wouldn't have poachers on this program, but Mark is an exceptional story, an exceptional human. And it's the story of learning. It's the story of loss. It's the story of depression. It's a story of redemption. And it's a story of somebody that you need to listen to. Whether you like what he did or not, he has something to impart to you. So listen a little bit to Mark Carter. We've swept through like all the badass shit, but we got to talk about the one, like, it's not probably not the one thing in your life that completely sucked, but it's a thing that I think I'm glad we can talk about it because not a lot of people can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a defining moment, man. Like, it was a defining moment, like, yeah, a lot of people don't know, I have 3 felonies,
hanging out with a felon.
I'm a felon, man. I'm a felon. I got, we got crossways, it was a crazy time of my life, got crossways with the federal government and they spanked us pretty hard. It was a little backstory was, growing up hunting my whole life, that was my passion, like my whole family's passion, my grandpa, like everybody. This was, and really like growing up, respecting the animals and understanding how the whole system works, and being a poor rancher, And then so when I was about 20 years old, and we were great elk hunters, I shot my first elk when I was 12 years old, and it was a proud moment, and just hunted all the way through high school. Loved hunting, guns, everything. That was my passion, man. That was my life. And then I started pursuing the snowboarding thing. Still ranching, doing some other things, and my brother, he'd graduated college, so he came back to the ranch, and I mean the ranch, like, dude, you ain't making any money. Like, he was poor. And so we had an opportunity. He's like, hey, I'm gonna be an outfitter. Like, we're good at hunting. Like, let's do some outfitting on the ranch, and like the elk, we had amazing elk hunting. Like, let's do this. And so obviously I was like, man, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Like, I can make a little cash in the fall. And so we started out. He was the outfitter, and I got my guide's license. And the first couple of years, it was pretty tough. Like, because it's a draw.
Yeah.
And so we'd have a couple hunters, and like it was like. It just wasn't what, it needed to be more. Well, then, obviously he met these guys from Oregon, and they were like, well, hey, guy, like, we'll can we buy your landowner tags? Like, we'll pay you, and then we'll just come out and we'll do the hunt, and like they're gonna pay him. It wasn't crazy. I don't even know how much money it was, but I was getting like a couple grand a fall cash to go work for like, a month guiding. And they'd have a few group of guys come out. So the deal was, if they didn't draw, they could use one of our landowner tags, because since we had all that land. And if nobody knows about landowner tags, it's like in Wyoming that you cannot sell your landowner tags. And we knew that, but like growing up in a small community like we grew up in, it wasn't like, I'm not going to say it wasn't done. It wasn't done, like people subsidize their ranch and certain things like during those times to maybe sell their landowner tags. So, but we had become an outfitter, and we were like, well, let's try to do it almost by the book. So we'll do these hunts, and we'll have a website, and we'll do a few landowner tags. So that's what we did. I think, over.
Because it was your brother.
Yeah, it was my brother and myself.
And your
Well,
dad.
my dad wasn't even involved. My dad was like, it was his ranch. But so my dad, he'd come up to hunting camp, dick around. He didn't know what was going on. My brother was like the outfitter. He dealt with it. I was the guide. I did a lot of cooking. RC did most of the guiding as well. So we had this kind of like this idea that like the landowner tags, it was like kind of a misdemeanor. And like, I'm not going to say I never broke the law. We weren't super concerned about it, just in the environment we were in.
You had a comparison to it, like having a couple beers on the way home from work. Is that how you felt about it?
Yeah. It wasn't like a huge deal. Like it wasn't something that was really on my mind. But I knew I was breaking the law. But like in that environment, like that's it. We kind of, I wouldn't say lived in a lawless land, but I mean, growing up, the deputy sheriff was our football coach, so we had a lot of reins, man. Like it wasn't like this super regulated area where they're like, you're breaking the law, you're going to jail. There was like, man, I did my share of drinking and getting in trouble as a kid, but there was a lot of just like understanding that these ranch kids are kind of wild and like, let's just let him go, like kind of good old boy, let him do his thing. Not that that's any excuse for what we did, but that's how we got in the
we should make it clear that nobody's asking for excuses. Just like, what's your mindset?
Well, that was a mindset. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So this wasn't a big deal in my mind, but I did know it was against the law.
Yeah.
How much against the law? That was something I did not know. So we go through, we're probably a guide. We guided these dudes for like 4 or 5 years, and then they had some friends come out, and if they couldn't make the hunt, and granted, some of these guys were drawing tags. It wasn't just all landowner stuff. I think over the course of 8 years, maybe, I don't know how the numbers, but it was less than 8 tags got used, I think. And so in like 2010, I'm at the top of my career. I'm traveling the world. I'm riding. I'm like, but there was this weird thing in my life. I was happy, but I was like a little unfulfilled, and I was really burnt out on like guiding hunters. I was really burnt out on like, that wasn't mine anymore. That wasn't for me. That was like, hunting season's coming. And now it was like, I gotta go guide these guys. Like, okay, whatever. Cause they can be kind of, difficult.
Yeah.
It's
a client service thing.
And the client service thing, I'm not
sometimes.
a client service guy. So in about 2010, I'll never forget it. It was like in June 5th, 2010. I mean, I woke up one morning and there's like 4 federal agents at my front door. And I was like, whoa, like, what do we do? And my brother, he was out.
Did you have any inkling at all?
No. I'm like, but I saw a game of fish. I was like, uh-oh. Like, what do we do? Like, we did something. Like, something's really bad. I just had this, like, it was 6 a.m. So my brother said he's out in the tractor at 6 a.m. out, like, in the field, and he sees, like, 4 Suburbans, maybe 4 or 5 Suburbans coming down the road, bumper to bumper, black, come in. And he has, like, this ditch in his driveway, and he said these things hit this thing so hard, like, they're bouncing, like, they jumped. And then all these dudes jump out with, like, federal agents, guns drawn, boom, all over his property. And he's way out in the field, and he just starts cruising over in his tractor. He's like, what is going on here?
So it was like a full-on raid. Like,
dude, it was a raid.
They had 60
agents across the nation. Like, they raided every hunter we had ever hunted with.
So it was a coordinated, like,
it was a coordinated effort. They had their, they had it dialed. So they came in hot, and they sat down with me, and they're like, what do you know about these? Started talking to me. I can't remember exactly what the conversation was, but the guys that came in were nice to me. Like, these dudes were pretty nice, They started asking me questions, and I was like, yeah, man, like, we have this hunting outfit, and he's like showing me pictures. So basically we had a website, and these animals that were illegal, they were on our website. So that's how much we knew. Yeah. So we had the website up. We had the legal animals. Some of them were on there. And they're like, you know what about those guys? And I was like, oh yeah, and I was so freaked out. I didn't know what to say. Like, I kind of admitted to some stuff, but I knew that I just kind of played dumb a little bit too. I was like, I don't know, because I knew we were fucked. Like, at some capacity here. So they do their thing, and they take my cell phone, they take some stuff from me, and then I was like, whoa, that was crazy. I called my brother. I'm like, dude, what is going on? And he's like, and he tells me his story. Dude, these guys come in, like, he just had 2 babies in his house, and they walk all over, and they take and they could do anything they want, right? And they walked over his carpet with muddy boots and took his laptop, took everything, cameras, everything. And I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like they told us what's going on. It was illegal hunting, but I didn't know what the capacity was. And then they mentioned felony. And I was like, what do you mean felony, man? Like, what's like a felon? Like you're talking about me being a felon. Okay. That's crazy. And, so it went on for like a year, and I didn't even know whether to get a lawyer or not. I was like, am I in trouble?
Did they just continue to contact you?
No, it was kind of silence, but I knew something was like going bad. And like RC lawyered up. I didn't lawyer up. I didn't really know like if I was in trouble. I didn't know, but they were building a case. And I was like, I had these sponsors, dude. And like, I didn't tell anybody because nobody knew, but I had this in the back of my head, you know, I knew something was coming down the pipe. Like I wasn't dumb. Like I'm pretty wise. I was like,
do you remember the days during that where you like getting up in the morning
dude,
trying to act normal?
Man. Yeah. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. There was 2 years where I didn't sleep. You know, it was an amazing experience in the way that I had no control. Like I had lost all control of my life, but all I could control was my emotion, how I reacted. And so I just kind of like went on living, man. Like it took me a long time to settle into that. So we go for like a year, you know, I'm killing it at life, I think. And
was there guilt there? Do you think like, are you because you know, like you said, you know, you did something wrong. There's nobody out there that hasn't done something wrong.
There was never an animal that was shot without a tag.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Everything had a tag. And there was less animals shot because the way we were hunting was like, dude, if you had an opportunity at a mature animal, and if you didn't, you know, if you blew that chance, like there was a lot of guys went home empty-handed, but we did, you know, I think we did get some beautiful animals. But so that went on, and I just like was trying to live my life and trying to be normal. I was dating a really amazing person, and you know, it was a lot of stress, you know, on our relationship or whatever. But well, then it was like August the next year, we get indicted. I get a letter, like they're like, indictment, you got to be at the federal court, and this is the deal, all right? And I was like, okay, so we did this landowner. I know there's some tags. This is a bad deal. Like I have no idea what's gonna happen. We go into court, and they indicted my dad too, which was that really hurt because he wasn't involved in the hunting operation, you know? But like one day he'd come down, like we'd gotten this beautiful bull, and he was there, and he would help us pack it out. So I guess he was involved, you know?
Yeah.
And he got a photo with the animal. Like, you know, he's like, oh, take a photo, you know? So anyways, he's involved. He's an accessory. We go to federal court, and they're like, they just start reading off, like we stand up, and they just start reading these charges off, man. And so when it was all said and done, my brother and myself were indicted on 11 felonies apiece. My dad was indicted on 3. I was facing 55 years in prison. RC and I each were facing 55 years in prison and $4.5 million in fines apiece. And I was like, it wasn't even real, man. Like I remember cutting a check. That was when I was like, I should probably get a lawyer before this indictment. Yeah. So I cut a check for $20,000. It was like my whole savings to this lawyer. I was like, here you go, man. Like I don't know what's going to happen. He's like, you're this is not good. You guys are going to go to prison. I was like, man, like I'm going to prison for this. Like this is crazy. Not like had no idea that this was a felony. So they indict us on.
To be clear, the felony comes in Lacey Act violation. So
it was
these guys taking these illegal animals.
Yeah, so
back
a couple of the hunters had taken animals back across state lines, violating the Lacey Act, and that's where the feds became involved. Because if they had never crossed the state lines, it wouldn't have been a felony. So that's where it got really cloudy, and I was like, "Holy cow, man! Like we are in trouble. I'm facing 55 years in prison." And so like that was the game, man. Like I lived with that, and then but the thing is like once that came out. Then it was public knowledge. Then the media got a hold of it, and then they started writing things about it. You know, it was a huge poaching ring, like all these things. And I don't know how you define poaching. Like maybe I did. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's the definition: illegal animal taken. I didn't feel like it was, but I did that, and the media butchered us, man. Like it was like this Casper Star Tribune. They were relentless.
Can you pull some of that up, Joe?
I mean, it was relentless. And I had a bit of a name in snowboarding. So, I mean, they were like, look at this guy. And then some asshole in snowboarding, like leaked it in the snowboarding media, and then it just blew up. And so I get a call from like one of my huge sponsors. They're like, "Yo, dude, what is going on?" I was like, "I don't know, man." Like, you know, I did some things and I'm in a lot of trouble. Like, that's all I can tell you. Like, I'm going to continue to do this snowboarding thing, like with or without you guys. Like, I understand that this does not look good, and on paper it is horrible. And so that was something I had to navigate, and that was a very humbling. I mean, I was so vulnerable. I mean, I just had my hands out, and then so throughout the next year, I did everything I could, man. Like if they asked me for something, like the prosecutors, I was like, man, what do you guys need from me? Like, I will tell you everything. Like, I have nothing to hide. I am an open book here, and my whole family was that way. So we sat down and we went through this whole process for a year of what they were going to do with us. And I'm still trying to like juggle my professional career, where it's like I can see it falling apart. My relationship at home is falling apart. Everything is falling apart around me. And I just kept thinking to myself, I was like, it made me really prioritize and live in the present, because I didn't know if I had a future. Because I really thought like I was going to do some prison time.
I was going to say, did you think?
Yeah.
Did you talk to your lawyer and he
the
said,
lawyer's
hey,
like,
you're looking
dude,
at?
he was basically like you're like, I would be really surprised if you don't do time. And I just like, it was really hard for me to comprehend that, because I didn't have a record. Like, I'd never done anything to be in jail. I'd never gotten thrown in jail. I had some minor infractions as a kid, as drinking, but to go from nothing to like the worst, it was like my mind did not compute what was happening. Like, I was kind of not in denial, but I was just really optimistic, man. I'm like, I'm not going to get felonies, dude. I'm just going to like keep doing this. Like, life's good. But it made me really prioritize my family, because during this whole process, they were really trying to turn us against each other. Like, they're like, your brother said. And I was like, no, he didn't. Like, but I get it. I get why they do that to like some bad guys. They turn them against each other. But I mean, maybe it's just me and it's my introspect, but like, I didn't feel like I was a bad guy. I didn't feel like we were bad guys. I didn't like it was what it was.
That was the most interesting point you said to me. You're like, I felt they were using the tactics that you would want them to use on bad guys.
You want them to use
on you, and you felt like, I'm a good guy.
But maybe the bad guys feel that way too. They're like,
probably.
It's just, poor me. It's just a selfish outlook on it. But it was crazy, dude. Like, I didn't sleep, but it really got me to this place of calm and patience, and just like letting things go, and things are going to happen. And there's nothing I can do to control this. And I just let it go, man. I was like, here we go. Like, I'm along for the ride on this one, man. It's like getting on a plane in turbulent weather, flying to South America. It's like, dude, you have no control. Just like sit back and just like take it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I took it. And I think the hardest part was watching the local media, the Whirlwind News, like these guys that I had all these accomplishments in my career that was like pretty exceptional for that area, like a snowboarder coming out, and they would never do anything in the paper about me. Like, I'd reach out and be like, hey man, that'd be cool to do a local thing. Never reached out. But the minute I am in trouble and this negative news, man, they were all up on that. And they just hammered it weekly about my dad. And that was hard seeing my dad. Like, I have thick skin, but like he's like 63 years old and like growing up in this community, and they're like, you're a felon, you're a poacher, you're like doing all this stuff. And like, yeah, we were charged with that. And I understand like that's what it looks like. But that was really hard to watch. And then, just navigating that, watching it hurt him, watching it hurt my mother and the people around me. But like, there's one thing, man, like I learned who my friends were.
Yeah. Like,
people distance themselves, man. Like, I had contracts coming down the pipe. Like, I was about to sign with a snowboard company, and they were like, yeah, that budget's tapped. I understand. But there were the companies that stood behind me. They knew my integrity. People are going to make mistakes, man. Like, people are going to make mistakes. And as long as you are accountable for yourself and you admit and you move on, like everybody else should too. It's like forgiveness is a beautiful thing in the human nature. And I think we're losing that. But so we went through this year of just hell, man. Like, I'm traveling the world and like trying to produce video parts. I have this dangerous job where my mind is not in it. My girlfriend's leaving me. Like, I have these opportunities that I can't even like, I can't even go after because I'm like so mentally like scrambled. And then I'm in Japan. I'm like on this amazing trip in Japan with like my best friend and one of my best friends from Norway. We're snowboarding and doing this project that winter. Everybody's backing me. I know this thing's coming down the pipe. And so we're like going back and forth with the feds. And like I would sit down with these guys. Like I was driving from Jackson to Casper to go meet with these guys because trials were coming up for all the other hunters, and all this crazy shit was going on. It wasn't just my life, man. They turned like a lot of people's lives upside down. And I mean, we deserved it. Like I broke the law, man. Like it was what it was. And I'm in Japan, and I still think that there's a chance that I'm not getting any felonies, because felonies to me are like, man, I'm like thinking all these like things in my head. I'm like, I'm not gonna ever be able to have a gun again. Something that I love so dearly and something I grew up with. It's like tool for a rancher. And I'm in Japan doing this project, and I just never forget. I was riding the elevator one morning, and I get the email from my lawyer, and he's like, here's the plea bargain, dude. And it was like 3 felonies, like I was getting 3 felonies, $75,000 donation to the Wyoming Game and Fish. And then I had to go to court. Then I had to go get sentenced. And I was like, wow, I guess this is what's happening, man. There's no, like, you don't, once they plea bargain, they're like, here you go.
What was the felonies?
Conspiracy to traffic in illegal wildlife, trafficking in illegal wildlife, and falsifying government documents. Because I signed my name to a landowner tag one time. Yep. And so I didn't understand the falsifying, but I get it. Like it's on the tag, and it says if you sign this illegally, that's a felony. Yeah. I committed that felony, dude. I signed that shit. You know, I did. Who reads the fine print? I tell you what, I read fine print now.
Yeah.
So then, you know, my brother he pleaded the same thing. My dad got like a plea with 1 felony, and like I don't remember exactly his donation fines. So then I'm like, okay, well at least we got that over. Okay, we're gonna move on. Like now we go to court. Our next step, and that was the thing is like, I found out I got felonies, and my girlfriend left me like within like 2 weeks. And I don't blame her for leaving me, dude. I was a dick. I was so stressed out, and like I was trying to like juggle all these things. Sponsors were leaving. Like it was what it was. I was just like wading the storm. I came back from Japan. I had like some crazy sickness that I was just in an apartment with no TV. Like I showed up, she was gone, everything was turned off, and I got sick and laid in my bed for 3 days with like almost died.
Well, there was a quote that Joe was just showing me that said it was like, this ruined my life up to this point. Is that how you obviously felt that way?
At that point, I did. At that point, man, and that was when we went to.
How old were you then?
It's been years. When they rated us, I just turned 30. That was my 30th birthday. It was right before my 30th. They're like, "Hey, man, like, dude, it's something like they say 30, like something changes in your life, like either way." And I was like, 30 sucked, but it changed, man. Like it changed me, and I wouldn't take it back. You know, like I wouldn't. Like that experience and those hardships, like they molded everything that I am right now. And so we go to court, and that's the scariest thing. Like we go to Cheyenne, man, like here we are in court getting sentenced. I'm still facing a maximum of 15 years and $750,000 in fines. I'm like, dude, like I hope the judge is cool. And so I go up there, and
you're going into that, and your lawyer's saying, hey,
I'm still like, they got me by the balls. I got nothing, dude. I have no control. The lawyer's like, dude, like I hope we can get you out. And I've just given it all up. You know, I'm like, man, like my life, I've lived an amazing life. If this is what's happening, like this is what it is, dude. But I can't, like, I understand when people get backed into a corner, you know, I understand like that feeling of helplessness, and you maybe want to just like act out a little bit towards like whatever's pushing. You want to push back, dude.
Yeah.
You want to push back.
Of course.
But I didn't push back. You know, I went and I stood in front of the judge, and you know, I think one of the quotes was, you know, this is ruining my life. And that was like a quote from the court, and my whole family's there, dude, like my whole family. And my friends that showed up, Louie and Justin and Dal and Johnny, they showed up. Like, dude, they didn't have to show up. They showed up in my behalf, in my family's behalf. And, you know, she looked at this and was like, you know, she told me, she's like, I've never seen anyone facing what you're facing with the record you have and the life you've lived. But at that point, you have a plea bargain, you know, like it's done.
It's done.
But she's just like, this is what your sentence is. And she just like, dude, she didn't give me shit. she was like, she understood a little bit, I think, and she had empathy for the situation. Not that she was like, you didn't break the law. Like, she's like, you broke the law, Mr. Carter. Like, this is the consequences. And I was like, I'll accept it. Anything you give me, this is it. And I got 3 years unsupervised probation because she was empathetic towards my job and traveling and all this career. And so that was like a huge relief. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to prison, dude. But I'm like, it wasn't. And then I realized like my anxiety wasn't about me going to prison. It was about my brother.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to do to him? And dude, they got up there and, dude, they sentenced him to like 1.5 years in prison. And like his wife's there and like crying. And I was like, there's this heavy moment. And I was like, all right, like, okay, 1.5 years. Like, what's my solution here? Like, hopefully that doesn't happen. And walking out of that courtroom was very sobering. It was in this way of like, okay, I think you're going to jail. I'm not going to jail, which I'd rather be going to jail. You have the family, but we're done. Now we're moving forward. We're like, we know what's going to happen.
You have some control.
I have some control. I'm like, okay, man, like, we'll figure this out. Like, I was even thinking, I'll quit the snowboarding. Like, I'll come back to the ranch. Like, whatever I got to do to like help my family and like make this work. Thank God he didn't have to do 1.5 years. They went through some shit, and he did end up having to do like 2 months in federal, which was crazy. But he was like, man, that was an experience, man. Like, that was something that I needed, and I don't know the reasoning behind everything that went down. I always felt like, I think when you're always in a situation like that, you feel like, poor me. And like, they're going at me so hard. And like, I just, it was what it was. And I just like, take your licking. Here you go, man. First wreck. Like, wreck, get up. Like, are you going to let this define you as a person? Are you going to like hold resentment against the people? And it was my choice. It was our choice, man. I accepted the choice that we had made to get us in this position. That was us, man. It wasn't them. We put them in that position to hammer us.
Yeah.
They did go by the law. We did break the law. It was what it was. But I think you're always in that position. You're like, poor me. But I got over that. And I like, RC did his prison time. But after that, it prioritized my life in a way of like, am I snowboarding for money? Because I lost everything, man. Like, I didn't have shit. I had like one sponsor left. And I was like, am I doing this for money, or am I doing it because I love snowboarding? I love being in the mountains. This is my life. This is what I do. And Gooch gave me some amazing advice. He's like, man, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. He's like, just focus on your own program. And man, I quit traveling the world. I focused on being home. I focused on being in Jackson and not leaving Jackson, and just like making that my home and saving money, because I didn't have the budget to travel anymore, man. I had like, I go to Alaska with 20 G's to like burn on helicopters, which is so like, it's crazy.
It's living the dream
I'm
for
rich.
A kid that likes to snowboard.
Check me out, I'm rich.
I'm rich.
Check me out. But I didn't appreciate it, man,
Yeah.
until I lost all that stuff. And it was the best thing that ever happened in my career, was losing all that and then really appreciating everything I've curated up back to this point, like getting the sponsors, people that signed me understood my past, and I was always been transparent about like, yo, like, I got a checkered past, like, this is the deal. Understanding, being in a position of judgment, like, people, like, they see your record, man. Like, you see 3 felonies on somebody's record and you're like, what did this dude do? Like, oh, you can't have guns, you can't vote. Like, I'm not even a citizen, but I think the gun thing hurts me more than anything, that hurts my soul, just not being able to like do something I love.
Well, let me just say this: like, you're the first person I've ever met, and I'll have to think about this and make sure I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm 100% sure at this moment you're the first person I've ever met that had their Second Amendment rights stripped away.
Yeah, and I earned it. I earned it. I did that. That was me, but it hurt, and more than it hurting me is like watching how it affects our ranch. Like watching, like, if you ever have been around a big ranch and a lot of livestock, like, things need put down and shot, and to not have that tool as a rancher is like a doctor not having a scalpel.
Yeah.
And the things I see my brother have to do, it kills me. It hurts my heart, because like he cares about his animals more than anybody I know. And like, to look something in the eye and cut its throat with a knife, dude, that's personal, man. Like, that hurts. And for one instance, like, he had this pig he loved, man. He loved this pig, Peaches. It was Peaches' mom. We have Peaches 2 or 3 now. But Peaches' mom, she was just like a family pet, lived under the little shelter out there by the house, and she had a bunch of little piglets, cute little piglets, a bunch of straw, and it was in the winter. And all them little piglets were under there. It was cold. Well, he had a heat lamp in there. And somehow some straw got pushed up against that lamp, started on fire. And that fire started. And he's like, he had to go out there. He saved a couple of the piglets, but he had to like sit there and watch that pig burn and hear it burn. Something that he loved burn because he couldn't put a bullet in it, and like, man, that was tough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like,
here's one thing I will say is that this story, you can't find a lot of people that are willing to talk like you're talking right now, man. Like, so you got a lot of courage even in this moment.
Yeah.
In front of a microphone with headphones on to talk about it. So like it's so folks that are listening to this, you take what you want from it. Mark's lived it, so it doesn't matter. But like at some level, I don't think I could find another person that's willing to sit here, say, I got a felony and this is what the story was and this is how I feel and this is how I got up off the mat.
Yeah, well,
it's a rare thing.
It's been something that I've been ashamed of. It's like the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah.
Like people are always like, "Oh, what about Carter?" Like. But it is what it is, man.
But, like that's. Look at where your life is, man. Like,
I mean,
look at where you are.
And that's the thing about this experience is, I wouldn't take it back. As hard, as messed up as it was, like I would not take that back. Because I wouldn't be where I am. I don't even think I'd be a pro snowboarder. Dude, this experience lit a fire in me like I never felt. I was like, oh, prioritized my life and got my shit together and like went after it. Because I was like, dude, it can be over. Like, boom, I have my freedom. Like I had all these problems before this, and then there was one problem I was worried about, and that was my freedom, man. Like when you have your freedom stripped, when you're like, I'm not free to roam anymore. Like, man, I was like, this is crazy. And I was like, get busy living. And dude, I chased it. But I did it on my terms. I was like, I'm not listening to anybody. I have thicker skin now from taking a beating from those newspapers constantly, seeing that back and forth. And I just look at those.
I mean, they painted you in like a bad light in a lot of them, man. Like,
well, I mean, it's the media, but we talk about the media and the
Wyoming's
negativity.
largest poaching case.
Yeah.
And like they even used a quote in this one. You get down here from one of the investigators. He says, I don't worry, but statistically, it's a pretty dangerous job. Everybody we deal with has a gun. And it's like, they're trying to paint you in a way that's...
Well, they painted us, man. They painted us.
Really.
And, I appreciate, being on this platform, be able to talk about it. Because I honestly, I've never talked about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, like I said, I think when there's a symptom, which a lot of times is very justified. Like the way you're approaching it to me is understandable as anything. You know your family, you know the people that you are, and when you're telling me this story, I know that you know in your heart, like these are good people, and they did a thing they shouldn't have done, and to be constantly forced to rationalize good people being punished in the way that they were is, I know that's a tough thing, and I know you have to say we deserved it because you broke the law.
I did.
But it's not that simple.
There's layers.
There's layers to it. And I think that's something that I've seen through other folks I've known that have had issues. And the public sphere, people want to knock you down. They want to take you down. And again, I would say, look, if I do something wrong, I hope I approach it the way you did and say, hey, I knew this was wrong and I did it anyway, and now I have to face the consequences and learn from it. Hopefully the consequences are level to the action.
We need to be held accountable. I think it's important, but I think we need to hold our peers accountable, like our friends accountable. And I think nothing ever changes when somebody you don't respect or care about is like attacking you. But when your friends are like speaking to you with honesty, like, yo, dude, that was kind of messed up. Like, you shouldn't do that shit. Like calling you out, like whether it be in your work environment or your personal environment, like I really respect somebody that comes up to me and is like, dude, you that's out of line, man. Like, I'm just going to call you out on that. And then you're going to be like, think about that because you respect that person. Like, I think there needs to be more of that and not afraid to like cross that line because I think that's a line that needs to be crossed. If somebody's out of line, man, like, they need to be
this
put
is a
back
core
in line.
tenet of my lifestyle, like respecting wildlife, respecting the land.
Dude.
And anybody crosses that line and they're going to hear it, right? And
They
know about
need
it,
to.
right?
But as long as they like acknowledge and are accountable, I mean, man, there's room for forgiveness too. That's the beautiful thing about humans.
Well, you've earned it. Like, you're sponsored by the North Face, you're sponsored by Yeti, you're sponsored by these companies that have everything to lose by bringing a felon onto their team. And listen, I was there. I worked there. I understand those relationships. Those relationships, it's either it's a zero-sum game. It's very much either it's all good for the company or it's not going to happen. It doesn't continue.
I mean, man, it was crazy, the hate. Like, you couldn't read the comments. Like, people just like, oh, they should all be killed. Like, I mean, crazy. Like, don't read the comments because it's just this no consequence for your actions. Like, if you say that online, this cowardly platform where there's no consequences. And I think that's a problem today is people can just say things. Like, where I grew up, man, like, if you said something to somebody, like, there was consequences. There was no running from it. Like, you had to stand toe to toe and you're like, did you say that? And that just doesn't happen anymore. Like, man, I had, a couple projects come out and I had people calling my sponsors, government agencies calling my sponsors, telling them after I had paid my dues, done everything that they wanted me to do, I got these guys calling my sponsors and telling them how bad of a guy I am and getting cut from sponsors because these guys that I just bowed down to and did everything they wanted me to do still had the power and control over my career. And that pissed me off. I was like, whoa. We're not done here? Like, we're still going to do this? Like, I have no leverage and there was nothing I could do, but I just took it, man. I just watched these sponsors fall off they're just like, there goes some more revenue. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. What more do you want from me,
Did you feel at any moment that maybe this wasn't redeemable? Like, maybe you couldn't get it back? Was there ever like a low moment where you're like, dude, I may never
I guess if I didn't, it got to where I didn't care if I got all that back. I just wanted to continue to live the life that I believed in. And that was where I found freedom. And then it all came kind of back around. I gave up the paychecks. I gave up like caring, chasing whatever the industry told me I needed to do. Because I was a controversial subject within the snowboard industry. Everybody's kind of like, Carter over here, he's some poaching redneck from Wyoming. And of course they would like generalize me into that box. They didn't know that, my past, and I think that's a dangerous thing. So when all these things are going down in our society and all these things, like I can kind of relate to some things. I know what it's like to be stripped of your freedoms. I know what it's like to be just no control, just zero control. But it's like how you respond to this. Like, am I going to make this my identity? Am I going to be a victim here? Or am I just going to be like, I'm going to use that shit as fuel, man. I'm going to like stand up. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to my mentality was like, I want anybody that hated and like called me and tried to like hold me down. I'm going to show them in like 5 years that like they were all wrong. Here I am. Like everybody's like, Carter's temporary, man. Like snowboard industry. I was already like an underdog with like my background. Nobody was a rancher in snowboarding. Like it wasn't cool, dude. Like it was not cool. They're like, this dude, what's this kook over here? And I was like, listen, I grew up in the mountains. I grew up in the nature. Like this is my shit. And I'm going to show you guys this is my shit. And I live it every day. I live it in the dirt. I live in the mountains. I live in the winter. And yeah, man, I just trying to like keep that going.
Look, like in a lot of ways, our society functions on stories, right? And as somebody who writes stories and thinks about stories and how to tell stories, you don't tell a story that doesn't have a triumph in it. It doesn't have an ultimate challenge. It doesn't have a protagonist and an antagonist. You don't tell a good story. You don't tell a flat, happy story to people to compel them. You don't turn on Netflix and watch somebody's happy life. You watch people go through shit and be imperfect and come out of it, and that's what makes life compelling, right?
I mean, man, like that that suffering and just that hurt and like that's so. It sucks at the time, but man, that's the best thing for you. That builds character.
Yeah,
I got a lot of character.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, you're not.
It's
gonna,
from a beating, dude.
Yeah,
it's a beating, but but my dad, like, I think it comes back to the ranch, man. Like, it wasn't my first beating. Maybe it was like that, and it was like traumatic, but it was not my first beating. I was like, okay, that's what we do. But I mean, it prioritized my family and made me appreciate everything I have. I was like, listen, I could lose all this shit tomorrow. As long as I do lose my freedom and as long as I have my family, it's going to be all good.
Yeah.
So everything past that's been a bonus. So it's like good, dude.
Wow. It's like after taking all that time trying to battle just to understand, like, am I going to have freedom? And then like maybe achieving the ultimate freedom afterwards, knowing that like, here's the real priority. Like I had to face certain prison.
That's a weird thought, dude.
I was just saying, like, I know I've been hanging out with you, dude. You're a normal dude. You're a good dude. Like, and you were facing prison time from the federal government, man. You know, and
they were pissed, man. They're pissed.
And look, again, I know how it is in our community, in the hunting community. People are rightly stripped of things when they do things wrong. They're rightly. So if I did what you did, I'd be stripped of a lot of things, right? And rightfully so. As you were. But there's always a but to it. People don't deserve to get erased from the planet.
No, we can move on. Like if people are, like I say, accountable and understand, like they admit their guilt. They stand up and they stand there and like, this is what I did, man. Like, why not forgive? Like,
oh, and here you are right now, sitting here in this moment. How many years have gone by? Not that many.
Man, it's like I think I got sentenced in 2012.
8 years.
8 years, man. Sucks not having guns though. It's bullshit.
And you have to get a presidential pardon, correct?
I think so. I mean,
you don't have any hope that might.
I don't know, man. Like I can't even vote, dude. I ain't gonna talk to the president.
You just feel like that's it, man. That's the way it's gonna be.
Well, I've accepted it, you know. And if like something changed, that would be amazing. I would love to see my old man and my brother get our guns back. But dude, like honestly, archery, like being able to hunt, like that was the first time when Dudley took me out last spring with that new bow he built me and took me to Oklahoma and I hunted hogs with him and I shot a boar. Like I didn't realize how much I missed that and how much that meant to me. And he never judged me. He didn't look at me like I was this tarnished human being. He just was like, oh yeah, man, like you're cool. Like it's just, you know, it was like to go and get back into hunting and be out there. It was like such kind of like a rejuvenating thing for me.
Was that something you were kind of worried about?
Dude, I was so worried about that.
Like even after your rights came back and you could go hunting again? Or was it something you just avoided because...
Judgment, man.
Yeah.
Like who wants to be judged? Who wants to be judged? Especially in the hunting community. I mean, this is like a controversial topic. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, that guy sucks.
There's a lot of people who get mad at me. I get that. And I've had experiences, and we were talking about this, we were hunting, man. It's just like people... I hate to generalize like this, but like there is a portion of people that want to knock folks down and keep them down. And listen, I get the anger. I get that I'm doing it the right way and this guy didn't.
Yeah.
We should never celebrate him again. I get that feeling. But I met you and I know you and I'm talking to you and I'm seeing you sit across from me like bearing everything for what? There's nothing for you to gain from sitting here talking to me. No. There's nothing.
No.
And so, but yet you're doing it, right? Yeah. And so that shows character.
Yeah, I mean, I got lots of it.
I can look at like, no matter what you've done or what I've done or definitely what Joe's done for guard holing us this week. Like, we're not going to judge him for that.
Compare him.
Yeah,
go kicking rocks.
But I think like when you can look at somebody and they can say to you, "Listen, man, this is my story. This is my life. This is what I did. I fucked up. It's awful."
Yeah.
But then you can laugh with them and learn about their life and their successes and the other things in their life that balance out the shit. What's more like human? What's more,
man? It's
relatable in some sense.
I agree. I mean, everybody's faced their hardships, whatever degree that may be. But it's like, gosh, stand up, man. Like, don't let them keep you down. They want to keep you down. It's the easiest thing to do. Like, but people, I understand, man. Like, people are pissed.
Yeah.
People are pissed at like what's going on. People want to they don't know what to do. They're just like lost, man. It's like, you know, what you could do is just like be kind, put yourself in other people's shoes, think about what they're thinking, why they think that way, respect one another, you know, like help your neighbor. Like if somebody doesn't, you know, if there's like complete opposite, so diverse in this world, like help them. If you don't think they'd like you, that's more of the reason to go up and be like, hey man, how you doing? Smile. How you doing today, man? Like,
yeah,
doesn't cost a penny to be nice, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, for you to go through all that, you know, and again, it's like going through it as a term. You went through it, it happened to you. You did something wrong. You got pinched.
Took it.
You took it.
Here you go.
And then come out on the other end and be
dues.
like, yeah, pay your dues and come out on the other end like, hey, positivity's the way, and not like, fuck the government, you know? Like,
hey, man.
I don't hear you saying that.
What are you going to do, man? It's positivity, you know? And like, that generalizing thing, like, is dangerous. Like, there's bad eggs in every carton. But to say one carton is bad just because of what they are, like, that's not right. I mean, I think there's great people in the government.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that care in the government. Are there people that don't care? And are there some duds? Yeah. Lots of them. But like, man, we're all human, dude. Like whatever position you are, it's just like seeing each other as humans, you know, and just like acknowledging that we're all on the same team, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, no matter what, no matter what else it is, no matter what else your like life and story is, what you just told is powerful. Like, no matter what it is other than that, it's powerful. People, if you really listen to it and take it in, Mark's sitting here just bearing all this and laying all this out there, man. I wish Peaches had a better end.
Yeah, it was a bad deal. But I mean, that's one thing too. Back about to the ranch, is like, man, like nothing new about death. Like that's the only guarantee. Like we're all gonna die. Like animals die. Like being on the ranch, like understanding that, and that's really like what made me. I don't want to die, man, but I ain't afraid of it. I do not fear that. You know, I will like do things. I don't ever make any decisions based upon, is it dangerous? I was like, yeah, it's dangerous. It kind of makes it fun, but I don't have a death wish and I don't want to die. But I mean, I'm not going to like go around scared of dying because, dude, hopefully it happens quick. It's like lights out. But I mean, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
Like I said, this is one of those times where, you know, it's not a lot I can say other than thanks for sharing that stuff.
Hey, man. Pleasure.
Thanks for choosing this. Thanks for choosing this place. And
hey, thanks for taking me bear hunting.
Dude, anytime, dude. You come back. You still have a bear tag for this fall.
I do.
We know that.
I'd love to come back, man. Get some meat.
You're welcome anytime, man. Because it is. Doesn't have to be bears either. It can be anything.
Do something. Something will happen.
Something will happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a fucking blast.
That was a blast. That was good.
That was fun.
Huh.
Like when we just hiked and sat around. We met an older couple that
they
were
were so nice.
So nice to us. They were asking us all kinds of crazy questions. Hey, there was an older guy who was a hunter, like quote unquote hunter, had hunted before with guides and things, and then his wife who was completely and utterly clueless to what was going on. And she's like, how do you get a bear out how do you shoot it with a bow more than once?
I love when people are interested in something they know nothing about. And questions. I think that's how we should be, man. We just like, you know, answer them with a smile. Don't look at them like this pretentious look, like you're dumb. Be like, hey, oh yeah, you're interested. Here you go. That's the first step.
Yeah, man.
Like understanding. She wants to understand, man.
And appreciate it.
It's great.
Right? And I'll tell you what, man. Flat out, totally honest.
Boom.
Look in the eye. Your appreciation for life is infectious. Yeah. Joe would agree.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I'm telling you, dude.
100%.
When you've seen death a lot, like you appreciate that life thing.
Oh yeah.
And especially like the existential, like your social life and the way you're seen in your industry and how hard you work to gain a standing and having that, you know, just wrecked for reasons that you caused.
Yeah.
Like, It's
appreciate it.
So,
life is good.
Times,
life
man.
is good.
Okay, Phil, what did you think about Mark Carter? There was a little bit of controversy around us running that. There's some people around that didn't think we should have had him on or be friends with him or know him or talk to him. Did you have any such feelings around this?
Do you want me to give you the honest answer or the answer that you want to air on the podcast?
I want to give you the honest answer. Honest answer.
I didn't think because I feel like you framed it around the whole cancel culture thing. That is something that happens. I don't think his story should have been filed under that because I don't think he got quote unquote canceled in any way. I think he admittedly committed a felony and is paying for it in a way, but he's still able to like make a living, and he didn't destroy his reputation in any like I'd say significant way. So those are my honest feelings about it.
Yeah, I mean it's complicated because he had a lot of his career was destroyed in a lot of ways, his life was destroyed in a lot of ways, and he was punished in many tangible and intangible ways for what he did, and he'll wear that label.
And I don't want to be. I don't. And this isn't me saying that like someone can't be redeemed or can't make or can't attempt to make up for past wrongdoings. I absolutely think that is something that people should strive for and we should support. I guess I just don't feel bad for the guy. I guess that's like the best way to sum it up.
Yeah. No, I don't think he would want you to feel bad for him. I think he he knows that he has to own it and live it, and that's his story, and he doesn't shy away from it. He doesn't try to hide it. He wears it on his sleeve, that's for sure. And so, yeah, I mean, since we ran that podcast, I've pretty regularly gotten emails from people questioning why I would even, talk to him, call him a friend, or want to relate to him in any way. And I just tell people, in a time of cancel culture, I'm not saying he's part of cancel culture, but I'm saying in a time of cancel culture, hearing people's stories and being able to explore redemption is an important thing. Not redemption isn't always there for people, and they're not always deserving of it, but certainly it's interesting to consider. And in Mark's case, man, I've found him to be nothing but honest. So to wrap it up, Mark Carter, we love you. And we're glad you shared her story. And, everybody can have their opinion, but at least it's out there. At least you shared it. I think it was a big moment for us, for this podcast in 2020. But to wrap this all up and to get into next year, we absolutely have to, talk about one shining moment in all of our lives. And that is the Sizzler promotional commercial from 1991. It was our favorite thing this year, was it not? The Sizzler commercial. It was just uplifted us so much.
Yeah. I mean, it was the best thing that happened on the podcast this year. I don't mean to be rude to you. I think you're very, like smart and talented and yada yada yada. But you couldn't bring what Sizzler could. Yeah,
and it's freedom, it's choices, it's everything we ever needed. So as we look forward into 2021 here at the THC, we're going to be guided by the gentle hand of the Sizzler, and the buffet, and the choices, and the freedom. So we're going to leave you to ponder that, and we'll see you next week for a brand new year, brand new season of THC. Phil, play the Sizzler. Now, I have an obsession right now, and it is something that I sent for both of you to watch. I've watched it maybe 1,000 times in the last week. It is sublime. It has gotten me through some tough days. It is everything that I needed in my life. Now, Phil, you have watched this video, have you not?
Oh, yes, I have.
Would you just describe not the contents, but how it made you feel, this video? We're going to play a little bit of it here in a second, but how did this video make you feel?
I absolutely love it. I mean, it really does transport you to not even just a different time and place, but like a different plane of existence.
Yeah, it's like taking DMT.
It truly,
you see God.
It truly is.
You see God. Like you just, Danielle, you've watched it. Do you have any like emotional feelings?
Part of me is like very annoyed and impatient because it's probably the longest video I've ever seen of nothing.
Oh, Danielle, you got to get in the right Danielle. It's not long enough, in my opinion. Yeah. I think you just got to get in the right headspace.
No, it reminds me of like, it definitely takes you back in time to like just I don't know what it reminds me of exactly. It's like I've been there, but I'm not there.
Yeah. Yes. So it really, at some level, it's changed me in a way that I really can't describe. And what is it, you might ask? Well, my buddy Bill Roden, listener to the podcast, works for Modern Huntsman now. Exceptional human. He's been on the show with Andy Anderson last year. He just posted this. He's a marketing guy. He's in the marketing world. He posted this, and with like a kind of dystopian, like look how screwed up America is. But when I watched it, I thought, look how beautiful America is, and look how how united we are. And it's a commercial for. Is it a commercial, Phil, or is it just what would you call it? A piece de resistance.
I mean, it really is just like a marketing video for, they describe it as like it was like not a training video, but like an introductory welcome to working here video for employees and also for investors of this company.
Now, before we get started, this is it's entitled, it's a YouTube video entitled Sizzler Promotional Commercial 1991. So we'll if you want to Google that or go to YouTube and search it out, we'll let you in and we'll pause for a moment so you can watch it. And we're back. Danielle, have you ever been to a Sizzler?
No, in fact, I thought that was either a very old Las Vegas casino buffet or Golden Corral.
So, Phil, you've been to a Sizzler before.
Ben, I was telling you, yes, I have, but not since the mid 90s,
and that's what helps. This is a 1991 video,
exactly. So because it had been that long, the way the restaurant looks in this video is exactly what I remember.
All right,
which
so
is a lot of just
still
like
around? Is it still
so they
existent?
actually just filed for bankruptcy because of COVID. I think like a couple months ago.
Yes,
so they are still around, but barely.
And this might bring them back. Maybe if they sponsor the Hunting Collective, this could bring them back. The listeners of this show would, but I wouldn't do that to the listeners of this show, because you're like, at the very least, you're going to get an upset stomach. At the worst, you're going to get botulism if you go to a Sizzler, and that's how it is. I'm not making any fun of Sizzler. I'm just stating facts. So, Phil, do you want to describe in some detail to Danielle what a Sizzler is and what your early childhood experience was like?
It's a buffet restaurant. That's I mean, it's just boiling it down to the essential idea of what it is. The food is not good. I mean, it sits under hot lamps for hours. I think it used to be kind of an all-encompassing kind of buffet, like just everything. I mean, if you watch that video, they're touting like salad and seafood and steaks but
so Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it looks like yeah. I mean, you got the idea of a Sizzler. It's like a very cheap, like 5 blocks off the strip, like Las Vegas buffet. If you can't afford to go to the Flamingo or whatever. So yeah, but I think they started leaning towards pizza at some point, but I might be making that up. I don't know. But
it's hard to know.
Yeah.
They've leaned. I think Sizzler leaned. They probably leaned with the wind. Whatever was happening socially, they would just throw it in a bucket and put it out.
Sure.
I just remember there being seafood, and I remember avoiding that. I also remember like the bright as hell neon Sizzler sign that I would drive past often in my hometown of Hagerstown, Maryland. So if you're listening from Hagerstown, Maryland, and the Sizzler, and you know about the Sizzler and it's still open, please let me know, because when I come home from Thanksgiving, I'm going there. And I'm going to play this commercial for everybody.
But the first minute and a half of this video, you would have no idea that it's a promotional video for Sizzler.
No.
It's just like 90s families just like hanging out.
Yeah.
Like there's a girl.
I can't tell you how much I love it.
There's a girl playing baseball. There's like an old Gordon's Fisherman looking MF like on a boat. There's like a sailor, there's a man in a sailor costume that looks like he looks like the sailor
girl with a sailor hat on too.
He looks like the sailor from the Village People, like not actually a sailor. like just hanging out on a dock, and then all of a sudden it's like Sizzler is the way. And it's like, okay.
It's like they went to like a theater and took all their costumes, and they're like, "You're gonna wear that."
They went to the prop closet of San Diego State University. Yeah.
Can I just say, we were gonna do a fundraiser, be a cameo for like a charity or something like that. I think maybe if we do the cameo and raise money, we should recreate this video with that money.
I would love that.
Well, I think we might. I gotta again get permission from the people that pulled the strings here, but if they would allow me to raise about $10,000 to do this, it could change lives. I'm reading the YouTube comments right now. It has 2+ million views on YouTube because why not?
The best comment is directed by Michael Scott.
Yeah. From The Office. I'm not even from America, but damn, I do feel proud to be American. I don't know whether to eat at Sizzler or to enlist in the military. Better do both.
There's about a 4-minute long song that it's just that's singing about the Sizzler, and then just at some point a narrator breaks in and is like, Americans decide that they love choice and they love freedom. Sizzler.
Somebody says, play this at my funeral. It'll cheer up my family as they remember my love of Sizzler.
And then at some point they bust out their slogan, which is Sizzler, a restaurant within a restaurant.
That doesn't
which
make
makes
any
no
sense
to
all.
me. It means
a Russian
nothing.
nesting doll of restaurants. And somebody writes, and sometimes when we touch, the salad bar is too much. I want to hold you till they bring us our fries.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me play. Should I play all 4 minutes of it, Phil, and just have like an
absolutely not. No matter how much I personally would love that, I'm trying to think about your audience, Ben.
I'm gonna play like the first little bit, and then we'll record till the end. And I don't know what to say, so I'm just gonna be laughing. And maybe I'll giggle like a schoolgirl here. So let's go. Oh, this guy's throwing a frisbee to a dog. And that dog catches it with such beauty. There's a guy in a construction hat looking at you creepily, half smiling. There's a little girl in a tree with a baseball bat for some reason. You don't play baseball in trees, little girl. There's the Gordon's fisherman man. Seagulls in the background. Oh man. A little girl in a sailor hat riding her bike on a dock. Yeah. Oh, that little girl got out of the tree and hit a baseball. Oh, must be a good one. She's excited. She jumped in the air. Slow motion.
Half of this video is in very bad-looking slow motion, too, which is another great part.
Sizzler. Oh, this guy puts his cowboy hat on another lady. Oh, all right. I'm going to play the end now. I can't. There's nothing I can do. Sizzler is the one that brings us choices, is probably the new slogan of this podcast. Phil, any commentary before we continue?
No. I mean, I said something before we started recording, which was this is the last thing you see before you die, and I honestly hope it is, because that would be incredible.
All right, well, let's close it out here. We're going to start with the two sailors kissing and then looking weirdly at the camera and then continuing on with the kissing. they are kissing, making. They're like smooching, like hi. They're making out, and then they look and they see the camera, and then continue making out, as if they know where this video is gonna be. There goes the kiss. Oh, the little girl is dancing. She hit that ball so far.
Sizzler. As you know, the Meat Eater live tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater Trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.